J.J. Wetherholt's going to make the opening day roster, which is very exciting. We also spoke to Church, Sajaci, Fermin, Pozo, Walker will all be on this club. Nelson Velasquez will not. He's going to go to Memphis.
That is what it sounded like yesterday. Audio courtesy of Derrick Goold of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, who will join us coming up in about 30 minutes here on BK and Ferrario to discuss the decision that ultimately dictated the roster, and that is the left field decision. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Your reaction at 314-399-9646 and on YouTube at youtube.com/101ESPN-STL. Alex, this decision basically came down to Velasquez, Thomas Sajaci, and Nathan Church. You get 2 spots for those 3 players. Now, some may also add in Jose Fermin into the conversation. That would mean it's 3 spots for 4 players. I don't know that he was ever really part of this conversation because
they don't want to lose him.
They don't want to lose their players.
And that's my biggest problem, ladies and gentlemen.
So I get it. I get people being upset today because, I mean, hell, we had said it on this show. If spring training matters, then this guy has to come north with a big league club.
Yeah.
Well, Bloom, did spring training matter?
Wanted out of him that we didn't see in the spring. Validates a lot of why we brought him here, and it was a tough one. It really comes down to, spring training is a big part of these decisions. It is not the entirety of the decision, and we wanted to keep all of our players. There's things we like about all these guys. Obviously, some of them had better springs than others, but like I said, that's not the whole decision, and this allows us to keep everybody in the organization. If Nelson keeps doing in Memphis what he did in spring training, I would think that he'll be a part of this at some point.
In other words, nah, bro, doesn't matter at all.
But yeah, Tanner wants to keep Joshua Baez up in the Cardinals because he's just hitting bombs in Memphis.
Velasquez was better than him.
Yeah. Velasquez was awesome.
I think that gave you your answer.
In spring training. And so
Never watch a spring game again.
we are getting breadcrumbs on what this new front office cares about, what they value. And what we've learned, they don't value spring training, guys. They don't think that it really tells you who these players are. And so, can a guy gain a little bit of ground? Sure. But he doesn't go from non-roster invitee to starting on opening day in left field.
And hitting cleanup because he's hitting home runs in spring training.
While the pitchers are working on their arsenal, right? That's not the way that they operate with this new front office in charge. Now, you can disagree with that. That is totally fair, and I'm sure many of you, including our own Tanner Hendrickson, will. But what I would say, my biggest takeaway from the decision that was made yesterday, man, they must really like Nathan Church. They clearly see something there. Because I would guess Nathan Church is starting in left field on opening day. I don't think it's going to be Thomas Sajaci. I think you're going to see Church get the majority of the starts out there. I think you're going to see Nathan Church get starts in right field on some days where Jordan Walker is out of the lineup and Nathan Church is in it. That guy might start more often in the first week of the season than Jordan Walker. I think that's at least in play. So, moral of the story, they went into spring training. I think they had an idea that Nathan Church was going to be a part of this thing. They did not see that with Nelson Velasquez. Velasquez hit his way into the conversation, but was not able to do enough to the point where they removed Nathan Church from the equation. And I think that's what would have had to happen for them to make this decision with Nelson Velasquez. The other piece of this, if they add Velasquez to the roster, they lose somebody. Probably Brian Torres.
Oh, my God, you can't.
I bought a Torres jersey.
Should that dictate the decision?
Jersey.
I would say no, but when you add that to the, we don't believe in Velasquez. I watched him with my own 2 eyes with the Royals. He has never been a good major leaguer.
He's a different player now.
Maybe. I think that it's at least defensible. Alex, what'd you make of it?
I mean, look, I think it says not only how much they like Nathan Church, but how much they like Thomas Sajaci, too. They didn't see a lot of Thomas Sajaci because of the World Baseball Classic. It's what we thought he might get Wally pipped because of Velasquez. And instead, they say the small sample size we saw of Sajaci, he's still going to make this roster over Velasquez. I don't have any issues with Velasquez not being on the roster, and I think that's the part that a lot of people were frustrated with because it's like, look at all of the pop. This team has no power. This team's in a rebuild. It doesn't matter if he has power and you want to put it in the middle of your order. Guys, he's been a major leaguer for 3 seasons, and he hasn't stuck with any of the teams he was a part of. There's a reason why. There's a reason why in spring training you look great, and in the regular season it may not translate. Just like in preseason hockey when somebody on this show was like, Logan Brown's going to be great, and he wasn't. Preseason doesn't matter.
Yeah, same with like how I heard about what was Lucic making the team.
Well, that was a different narrative.
He was like
Velasquez did not play in Major League Baseball last year and was available to the Cardinals this offseason as a minor league player.
He couldn't make the cut for the Cubs in 2022, 2023, nor the Royals in the last 2 years.
Throwing that back in my face.
Guys,
it's
the
ridiculous.
Royals desperately need power. You know who else he played for last year? The Pittsburgh Pirates. You know who decided he can't help us? The Pittsburgh Pirates. And that's despite the fact that in the minor leagues, while he was with them, he hit .285 and slugged. Major league evaluators do not believe in his swing. They do not believe that what he does will translate to the big league level. And the Cardinals are simply the latest example of this. Every team he's ever been with felt that way. And now the Cardinals, 2 years after he last played in Major League Baseball, agreed with those decisions. Now, you may think they're all dunces and they're stupid and they don't know what they're looking at. Cool, that's fair. That could be your opinion. I would say the guy that has had more success both at the minor league level and the major league level in Nathan Church is at least worth an option, at least worth consideration when he's younger and, in my opinion, more interesting as a future member of this team than Nelson Velasquez. Right now, I think Velasquez might have been better than Nathan Church. Like the first month of the season, he may be better for you. Your decisions right now should not be dictated by what's going to make you the best over the next month. It should be dictated by what's going to make you the best over the next 3 years. And I think they determined Nathan Church is more likely to be a part of the Cardinals for the next 3 years than Nelson Velasquez. And it really is that simple. That should be what's dictating all of these decisions.
Age comes into this as well. You mentioned it. Velasquez is 27 years old versus a 23-year-old Thomas Ajacey and a 25-year-old Nathan Church. So, again, I don't have any issues with that. I think the other problem that I had, and I know Jose Fermin's not really part of it because they were worried about losing that guy. To me, that was the old regime in terms of we don't want to lose a guy through waivers. Yeah, why are we worried about losing Jose Fermin through waivers? Because he plays a position that you can use in a lot of spots.
So let's go that way.
Let's.
I'm just playing devil's advocate here. I'm not wearing my bow tie. I've got an open-ended shirt today.
Yeah, you're kind of cash today, man.
Yeah.
This is definitely what casual Mo looks like.
I think what Alex is wearing is actually technically casual Mo.
Yeah, that's really fair. Hold on, actually,
I think this is
that's casual Mo.
Heimblum, John Mozeliak. It's close enough that you might not be able to resemble the difference.
I think T-Bone's in this casual Heim.
Yeah.
I think you're kind of a cash Ollie.
I could see that.
Or Gersh.
You're
Cash Gersh.
Yeah.
Gersh,
Special projects, casual.
Okay, so anyways.
Yeah, where are we at now?
What was I saying?
Look, who's wearing number 26 for the Cardinals?
Operate under
Wetherholt.
Oh, let's talk about that.
I will not.
No?
I do not care.
Scott Spezia Award, I think.
Great.
He's World Series champion.
Something about Fermin.
Fermin's wearing 26?
You decided to send Fermin through waivers. You keep Nelson Velasquez.
I'm the new and improved regime.
Who's starting in left field for you?
Church.
Why did you keep Velasquez?
Because he hit better than Fermin in spring training.
But what's the value of him? Where is he helping?
What's the value of Fermin?
First,
Jinx,
he
he'll make up.
can play anywhere.
Thomas Ajacey can play anywhere for me.
So can Fermin.
I don't need Fermin.
Arias.
Also, I don't. But
we
I
need
got
3 of
Arias.
those
So why
guys?
am I keeping Fermin?
What I'm saying, how is he helping you?
He's power.
Velasquez, yes, but how is he getting to that when he's not starting for you?
You're playing the same role that Jose Fermin is. Good luck finding at bats. But when you get him, you better make it look good.
But if I'm going to keep him, he's starting. That's why you keep him. Because if I'm losing a player through waivers...
But why can't you have a guy just on the bench?
Because I don't need to lose a player through waivers in order to keep a guy that's going to get 5 at-bats a week.
But that guy's not going to get that many at-bats.
I agree, but I can just put Nelson Velasquez down in AAA and keep him and keep Jose Fermin and not have to worry about losing either of them.
But I do think
for the value of those 5 at-bats, which I don't truly care about.
I don't
because
either.
I don't care if they win or lose early in the season.
Again, spring to matter, okay?
I'm doing the 10,000-foot view. I'm playing the role of Chaim Bloom here. I think that's their view of it. Is if we lose one game in April because we don't have that power potential on our bench, which, by the way, I'm not sure he actually gets to it in a major league game, but at least the potential is there. I get that.
To be fair, I don't know how much they're pinch hitting.
Yeah, exactly. If we lose one extra game in April because of that, okay. What's the value of that compared to the value of finding out what we have in these other players that are here and still being able to see what's that bat translate to at the AAA level in 2026 after we've had an ability to watch him for the last month?
But see, all those guys...
I think that is more valuable than getting those 5 at-bats. Unless you were deciding we're starting him every day and we're putting to rest this idea of Church or Sajaci getting regular at-bats.
See, I don't think
that had to be the decision.
I don't think there needs to be an either or there. I think you can have Velazquez earned a spot on the roster through spring training. Even if you don't think spring training stats matter, you earned a spot on the major league roster. And Jose Fermin did not. There does have to be something towards, hey, if you go into camp with a competition, and if you perform well in the competition, you do deserve a spot.
Can we be fair, though? Fermin has been a better major league player than Velazquez, and it's not close.
But Fermin doesn't provide what Velazquez provides, power. Fermin provides you utility.
The last
and I think
time
you got a lot
Velazquez
of those guys.
provided power at the major league level was 3 years ago.
That's fine. But what I'm saying is there should be something to performing in spring training when there's a competition.
Isn't there something to performing in the regular season? Because Velazquez has not done that.
Not in a rebuild.
What do you mean?
In a rebuild, it doesn't matter what you do in the regular season.
Then why is any of it? Like, why bring Velazquez then?
Because I'd rather have a Velazquez who provides something that my roster does not versus a guy who does the same thing that 3 other guys on my bench do.
Who is more likely to be a part of this team's future in 3 years? Nelson Velazquez or Nathan Church or Thomas Sajaci? How would you rank them?
But you're putting this into a competition with Church and Sajaci. They're already on my roster. I'm talking Velazquez and Fermin.
Yeah, see, I don't think that was ever the way that they were looking at it.
That was the old regime's move.
I agree that's how they were looking at it.
That's
I
an
think
old regime move, though.
It's a fair argument, though, to have Velazquez here.
Sure, you could have him here, but he doesn't have a role if he's here.
And again, but this is where the same thing. Fermin doesn't have a role here.
Sure, but at least with Fermin, by him being here, he's the 26th man. I don't.
But
really
why can't
care
Velazquez be that?
Because if I have Velazquez here, the opportunity cost doesn't exist currently. By having Fermin here, I still get to keep Velazquez, and I keep Sajaci, and I get to see what Church is every single day. So there's no opportunity cost by keeping Fermin. By keeping Velazquez in that same role, it's twofold. One, I probably lose Fermin via waivers, and even if I don't, now I have to send somebody else off of my 40-man roster just to get Velazquez onto my 40-man roster. Now, that is not the end of the world, but it is an extra move that you don't have to make. And to me, I don't think they needed to. I'm surprised they did it this way. We all thought that Velazquez was making this roster. I thought that was going to be the case. But now that it's happened this way, honestly, it makes a lot of sense. Especially if they actually believe in Church. And I think that's why I keep going back to him. I think he is the one that I learned the most about yesterday. Prior to yesterday, I thought it was a competition of Velazquez and Sajaci to start in left field. I thought that's the way that they were looking at this. I think what we have learned in the last 24 hours is that that's not the case. It's actually Nathan Church who had the inside track to becoming the starting left fielder on opening day. And right now, I would say he might even be above Jordan Walker on the pecking order of outfielders, corner outfielders specifically, who are most likely to remain in their current position when Lars Nootbaar gets back onto this roster a month or 2 months from now. So I find that to be fascinating. I don't know if it's going to work. Probably not. But I find it to be really interesting that that's the way they seem to be looking at it.
Yeah, and see, I don't think they went into spring thinking that Church had the inside track. I think Church earned the inside track. I think because he performed so well in spring training, because they did call it a competition, I do think they wanted it to be a true competition. He had an 860 OPS in spring training. So it's not like he just is being gift-wrapped at this job. I think he earned it, and he took advantage.
Very good at AAA last year,
Very good at AAA last year. Looked a little overmatched at the big leagues, but I think we see that a lot with guys in a 1-month sample size. And I think he's the one who earned it. and he had the ultimate tiebreaker over Velasquez, right? And then he ultimately ended up with a tiebreaker over Sajaci because Sajaci went to go play for Team Italy. So he got a bigger runway. But in a rebuild, you're going to decide, okay, who are we going to go with? A guy that was a non-roster invitee, or are we going to go with a guy that is on the 40-man? The answer will be the 40-man. Now, I would disagree on the sentiment on the Fermin one. I would say the biggest storyline out yesterday, I agree, was Nathan Church. I think the secondary storyline was it's another them overvaluing their 40-man. Of Chaim Bloom doing the same thing that Mo would do, which is, how can we lose this guy on waivers? Guys, you could trade, if you lost him on waivers, you could go get another depth infielder for cash like you did when you got Fermin 3 years ago. So I don't care either way. That 26-man wasn't going to get a lot of at-bats. I would have rewarded the guy for having a good spring training and brought him with the club. But I do think Church is the one who earned that start in left field. So I agree with your sentiment there. I would have carried Velasquez over Fermin, though.
He's T-Bone. That's Alex. I'm BK. You guys can get involved in the show. 314-399-9646. That is the way to do so. You can also check us out on YouTube at youtube.com/101ESPN STL. Want to get a lot of your reaction throughout the day today. We will get the reaction of Derrick Goold, Cardinals insider, coming up at 11:30. We will also be joined today by David Backus, the former Blues captain. We'll talk to him coming up later on this afternoon. But coming up next, J.J. Wetherholt breaking camp with the club. That's not our open today because it was almost a foregone conclusion when they arrived at spring training. That doesn't make it any less exciting, though. We'll talk about that next here on 101 ESPN. Hey, it's BK. It is time to unlock your inner champion. The place to do so is with Victory Men's Health. They have a new and improved website. They just launched this week. And when you go over there, you can read about all that they have to offer, whether it's testosterone optimization, weight loss goals, sexual health that you're trying to get put in the right direction. They also have vitamin infusion. They have red light therapy programs, cardiovascular testing, and they can help you out with muscle building as well. That is something, Alex, that they helped me out with whenever I went over there to Victory Men's Health. I went in there, found out where all of my vitamins were at, found out where some of my deficiencies were at, and then they can optimize exactly where you're at to make sure that you are the best version of yourself. They can do that over at Victory Men's Health. To book that first appointment, go online today, victorymenshealth.com, book that first appointment, put in your name, email, phone number, tell them BK with 101 ESPN sent you, and then tell them what it means for you to unlock your inner champion. It's all available at their 4 great locations across the St. Louis area and online at victorymenshealth.com. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK from the 314. First segment of the sports radio show. Shimmy at each other and dissect each other's outfit choices. Nice.
Fair conclusion to what our show is, yeah.
Welcome to a rebuild, ladies
Also,
and gentlemen.
welcome to entertaining radio.
Wait till you see what we're doing in July when they're really bad.
It's gonna be more than shimmying.
Yeah,
By the way,
might be shaking something else.
Slapping some balls around, probably, because the Cardinals will be needing to there.
tickle. Redbird Rants. I really love this site. They do really good work. And I saw earlier today, Alex, I was checking it out. Their top article today, ranking the 10 most important Cardinals for 2026.
Someone's stealing content.
We just didn't do it.
25.
I thought to myself, yeah, somebody should have done that.
we weren't.
So we can
We're boycotting it.
we can discuss their choices.
Here's a real challenge, Redbird Ranch. Do top 20 like we
Do a 25.
We can discuss their choices coming up later on today. All right, so JJ Wetherholt, Alex, it was announced yesterday he's officially breaking camp with the big league club. That's not surprising. We all knew when they traded Brendan Donovan, this is the way it was going. Hell, before they had traded Brendan Donovan, I still think he was probably going to break camp with the big league club. He probably just would have started over Nolan Gorman. It doesn't make it any less exciting. I am curious, though, because there's some scar tissue in St. Louis with high-level prospects.
No.
Whether that's Alex Reyes or Jordan Walker or Dylan Carlson or Nolan Gorman, this has not gone well over the last 7 years. What's your level of anticipation to see JJ Wetherholt in a Cardinals uniform, Alex? Because this is not just a top-level prospect. This is a guy that was drafted in accordance with his prospect ranking. So it is different in that regard. This isn't a guy that came out of nowhere.
He's the highest offensive player drafted by the Cardinals since Drew, right?
Yeah.
I mean, my excitement back when J.D. Drew was playing, because he was one of my favorite players growing up, it's probably at like an 8 or 9. I mean, like, it'd be a 10 if this team was supposed to be competitive, and I think that's what waters it down a little bit, because you're getting to see what could be the best player for the Cardinals in terms of their own draft since Albert Pujols, and I'm not trying to put that label on him. I'm just saying there have been a lot of duds, but when you get somebody who was drafted this high and has this much anticipation and this much expectation, you know, the excitement is there. So it's the number one thing why I think I'm looking forward to this Cardinals season is to see what J.J. Wetherholt can become. And if you see shades of that superstar that they have been searching for the last however many years, but it does get watered down a little bit just because the team is in a rebuild. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm more excited to see what this looks like in June, July, and August rather than see it right out of the gate, because sometimes we get a little bit ahead of ourselves. You see something and it's like, oh my God, he's so much better than all of these other players, and you're going to hit some type of regression throughout his time.
That's kind of where I am. Like, I'm excited to see him play with the Cardinals this year. But it's not necessarily year one that typically we get scarred. It's typically year two when they go towards those adjustments, where the league finally gets the book out on them and then just washes them away, and you never see them get back to themselves. That's Walker. That's Carlson. Like, you can go through the list. O'Neal had that problem after his big breakout year. So I'm excited for him. The other thing, too, is, and I hate to say this, and I hate that I'm falling kind of as the victim into doing this, I feel like I'm already typecasting him as not going to be a superstar. Because to me, he doesn't profile as it. He doesn't have the, like, power as the number one tool, right? When I think of the superstars, I typically think of the guys that hit the ball far. Like, Vlad Guerrero's biggest tool is his power. But his tool is more of the hit tool. And I just don't know how that translates as to, like, becoming what the Cardinals seem to be viewing him as, which is the face of the rebuild and the face of, hey, if this guy ends up hitting his stride, he's going to be our best player when we're ready to contend again. I just have a tough time kind of translating him to that picture. And it's why I have a tough time figuring out, like, okay, how am I going to view him for expectations? I view him a little less than others, right? Like, I think if he's 10% above league average, that's a successful season this year. You know, I think a lot of people are hoping he's like 20 to 30% above league average, and they hope he's more of like the Brendan Donovan type player.
I think, to me, and we talked about this on the Redbird Report recently, T-Bone, my hope is that he can become some kind of version of Bo Bichette, where Bo Bichette has consistently just been a really good baseball player. He hits around 300. He gets on base at a pretty decent clip. I think you probably expect a slightly higher on-base percentage from J.J. Wetherholt than what we've seen from Bichette in his career. And then I think maybe a little less power than what we've seen from Bichette in his career. But you add all of that up, that's a really well-rounded player. And the kind of guy that can be a Robin to somebody else's Batman. And I think that's what you're getting to, T-Bone, is I don't think he's probably the number one hitter on a contending club. that should not take away from the fact that he can be one of the driving reasons why you win. He can be one of the 2 or 3 best hitters on a winning club, and you've just got to keep stacking up those wins over the next few years. So if he becomes some kind of a version of Bo Bichette, and maybe Joshua Baez becomes a 25 homer, 30 stolen base guy in your lineup as well. And Ivan Herrera, what we saw last year is real, and he can become an 800 OPS player. And what we've seen from Alec Burleson is real, and he's right around there. And then Ray Rodriguez comes up, and hot damn, he's every bit as good as people have suggested. And they get one more top 5-ish pick after this season. And that becomes the star, or they're able to go out and trade for or sign a star. Well, now you have the makings of a contending lineup. So you just have to keep stacking up the wins. I know it's hard, but these are the kinds of things that they've got to be willing to do. So, Alex, to go back to your scale, 1 to 10, what's your level of excitement? I'm like a 7 or a 7.5, which is pretty low for a typical top 5 prospect in Major League Baseball. But I do agree with T-Bone. He's also not your traditional top 5 prospect profile that you see. He's not O'Neal Cruz. He's not Ellie De La Cruz. He's not... even Jordan Walker.
I mean, look at the kid in Pittsburgh. He just got sent down. But Connor Griffin, that guy's supposed to have incredible power for even a 18 or 19-year-old. That's what I think of when I'm thinking of that. And that's why, I know this is going to sound weird. I almost find myself, and I hate, again, this is why I said I hate that I feel like I'm typecasting J.J. Wetherholt. I almost find myself more excited for when Baez eventually gets here than Wetherholt.
Just different player type,
And I dig the long ball.
Yeah. And that's not a bad thing.
I'm just looking for star status. And if this guy can get close to it for me, that's enough. And I'm not going to be selfish enough to be like, I just want the power. I mean, yeah, I would love to see that. I'd love to see a Connor Griffith. I'd love to see that type of potential star with the power. This team has lacked the ability to find that guy for so long. Just get me somebody. If you're telling me I'm going to get to watch Bo Bichette for the next 10 to 12 years,
it's the hope.
In. And that's where the excitement's at an 8 or a 9, because we haven't had this. Typically they're busts. Typically they don't live up to be that. This is a guy that was drafted significantly high in terms of a position player for the Cardinals. So that's why it's not the sole reason I'm looking forward to this season, but I'd say 95% of that pie chart is going to be J.J. Wetherholt and the potential of other prospects that make their debut.
I'd say a reasonable outcome for J.J. Wetherholt is he becomes something pretty similar to Brendan Donovan. I think that's a reasonable, mid-tier outcome. An 80th percentile outcome is probably more in the Bo Bichette range. And maybe that is even the 90th percentile outcome, where, if he reaches something close to his peak performance, it's Bo Bichette. And then somewhere in between is a pretty darn good outcome where he becomes, an 800 OPS type of a player with the ability to steal, 20 bags a year. It's a really good baseball player. And if you're getting that from second base, it continues to open up third base, first base, the corner outfield spots, the traditional power sources to allow you to have those spots to get, the big boppers in the middle of your order. And J.J. Wetherholt can set the table for him. So I'm excited for it. It's just a slightly different level of intrigue and level of anticipation than what it's been for some of these other guys that have been up. And that's both a product of timing, where the Cardinals are not as good as they have been in the past. And so it's not kind of the last piece that can hopefully put you over the top. And also a product of his profile, where he's not that power bat that could be, a traditional 3 or 4 hole hitter for the rest of his career.
Well, and that's why you're going into another rebuild or a build, because you want to go find that guy.
Absolutely.
And that's why Fermin stayed on the roster.
Can you build a build?
Totally, you could build a build.
He's Alex, that's T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. In 15 minutes, we'll get into questions and answers. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line to get your questions in. But next, we'll be joined by Derrick Goold, Cardinals beat writer for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Want to ask him about what he learned in regards to the Cardinals left field situation, what his interpretation was on all of that. We'll get into that next with Derrick Goold here on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here with the Sports Center update brought to you by Universal Windows Direct. The Blues will be back in action tonight as they take on the Washington Capitals. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 6 o'clock with Alex Ferrario. Puck drop at 7 o'clock with Chris Garber and Joey Vitale. And yesterday, the St. Louis Cardinals wrapped up spring training by taking on the Springfield Cardinals. Opening day will be Thursday. 3:15 will be first pitch as the Cardinals take on the Tampa Bay Rays. Matthew Liberatore will get the nod for opening day. And yesterday, the Cardinals finalized their opening day roster. We'll talk it over with Cardinals beat writer Derrick Goold of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch next here on 101 ESPN. The Sports Update was brought to you by Universal Windows Direct.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Happy to go out to the Callier and Thompson hotline to be joined by Cardinals beat writer for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, Derrick Goold, joining us as he does each and every Tuesday here on BK and Ferrario, doing so in transit back to St. Louis after the night out in Springfield yesterday. Derrick, some big news yesterday as the Cardinals announced their roster decisions, especially as it pertains to their plans in left field. A lot of discussion on that here on the show so far today. Do want to get your perspective on it. First of all, were you surprised by the decision? Because I know last week we thought it was a foregone conclusion that Nelson Velazquez would be the starting left fielder on opening day. That's no longer the case. What was your level of surprise to that?
You can kind of look back on the comments over the past week, and maybe there were some, clues, I guess, maybe some footprints in the mud that would have led us to that. But you got a guy who, a lot of times when someone goes and does everything asked of him and the spot is open, it kind of makes the decision for the Cardinals. Look at J.J. Wetherholt, right? He did everything asked of him by the Cardinals, and second base is open. So he's the opening day second baseman. Nelson Velazquez did everything asked of him, cut down on the swing and miss, showed contact, showed power that no one else on the roster had. Kind of was able to manifest exactly what they thought they were getting, and that position is open. So definitely a bit of a surprise that they wouldn't go in that direction. This comes down to something that's definitely debatable, and it's, the identity that the team wants to have as an offense, but more so the kind of protection of assets at the moment.
In terms of that identity, Derrick, I think after hearing what Ollie and Heim had to say yesterday, they're very high on what Nathan Church can be for this roster. So how does his profile play into that identity that they're searching for?
No, that's a great point because, they started spring training like, all right, got to have a right-handed hitting outfielder and want to go shopping for one or maybe even trade for one. And they end spring going, well, we got this left-handed hitting outfielder, Nathan Church, who's doing pretty well. He had a good spring, and he does a lot of things defensively, does a lot of things on the bases that they want to do consistently. This is not a team that has a whole lot of power, and they are in a game or in a style of game where teams that win have a lot of power. So they have to come up with some creativity offensively, and they feel that Nathan can do that while also giving them a really strong run prevention unit out there defensively, which leans into the fact that if you're not going to score a lot of runs, you got to find ways to stop teams from doing it.
Derrick, I know sometimes there's quotes from an offseason or from a period in time that you kind of pull, and you're like, all right, let's put an asterisk next to that one, so that way we remember it later on when it becomes relevant. I feel like this decision might have been one of those where you look back on Chaim Bloom's opening statements when he was officially introduced as the president of baseball operations, and he talked about, sometimes the decisions in the moment won't make sense, but they'll be for the bigger picture. They'll be for the longer term. And this one, I didn't think necessarily played into that, but when you think about it, Nelson Velazquez is probably not a long-term answer for the Cardinals, most likely. He's 27 years old. He's kind of been a career minor leaguer / very rarely up in the big leagues, and when up, it hasn't always translated. Church at least has the potential to be a longer-term piece. So JC certainly does. Could this be one of those decisions that when you look through it from the longer-term lens, it starts to make a little bit more sense?
I guess I think you can explain it that way if you want, but I could also counter with
Sure,
any
please do.
number of examples that don't fit that. Right? Is Fermin part of this long-term plan? But he's on the roster. Is he going to be their third baseman long-term? Is he their backup if Gorman doesn't work out? No, probably not. He's not going to take playing time from Wetherholt. He's not even going to surpass Sajasi because you're right. Sajasi does have that upside. So let's talk about Sajasi and his future. How different does his future look if he goes to Memphis and shows off that he can play center field like Tommy Edman can play center field, right? Like, how differently does that right-handed bat look for him if he just goes and plays in Memphis at a new position versus maybe every so often seeing that new position now in the majors? So I think when you say, I mean, they can argue that and make a compelling argument that this is a decision about the future, not the now. But then you can go, well, what about all these other decisions? Those sure seem like the now. So why is this the one that stands out? It really comes down to the fact that they didn't want to lose the group that they have. They already got to make one 40-man roster with Wetherholt. You can look at the 40-player roster and go, okay, there are different spots. There's some redundancies that you could reduce. You could create spots. So I think it's more just like they didn't want to lose their depth. And they also, what they're not saying, but they want to see is that Velica is doing in Memphis where pitchers are going to try to get him out what he did all spring. They're just not yet buying into the significant change in contact rate, figuring that, well, spring is a chance for pitchers to challenge, work on things, all that stuff. He took advantage of them. He's had a chance in the majors. He's had otherwise hasn't really made much contact, has the high strikeout rate.
Tunnel.
Yeah, we're going to try to get Derrick Goold back on with us here momentarily. He's driving back from Springfield to St. Louis. He makes a really interesting point there.
I think it was a great point. I think he was spot on. Like, what's
I'm
the
sure
future for Jose Fermin, Just don't really see it.
I keep going back to, I think if you bring him up, talking about Velasquez, to the big league roster, I think he's starting. And I think they want to see,
I think the part for me is just the redundancy of the roster. Like, he's right. Like, to me, Fermin and Urias is the one, like, why'd you make that signing? If you liked Fermin so much, why'd you have to go sign Urias? Because the other guy that you got on the roster that's redundant is Cesar Prieto.
Okay, but we've got Derrick Goold back on the air with us here. Derrick, as a follow-up to that, I know you asked this question yesterday, I think, to Chaim Bloom, and I don't know that he had a real answer to it, but I'm curious your perspective. How much does Lars Nootbaar play into all of this, and the fact that they don't seem to have a firm indication one way or the other as to whether or not he's going to need to be on the 60-day IL?
So that's a big part of this, right? If you put Lars on the 60-day, you are locking in how long he's going to be gone, how much playing time you have out there in left field, and also clearing the spot for Wetherholt. That is a clear and present question for Chaim Bloom and the medical staff and Lars Nootbaar in these coming 48 hours. They don't want that. Answer.
And it looks like he's back. There's Derrick.
Sorry, guys, about that. Yeah.
Hey, that's the travel from Springfield. Man. I know that. I know that feeling.
It's A-okay.
You think with Rolla right there, the reception would be so much better.
You would think so, and yet technology
That's where all the
always
engineers
finds a way.
are, right?
You'd think that those
engineers.
You'd think that those towers reach is just so good, and it's no problem here.
Yeah, just students will be like, we can supercharge these towers here. So I think that's not the option that they want, but it's one that's on the table. And part of that is running. Lars is running, which it's interesting to see how that kind of calendar shifted. You start spring training and they're like, maybe he gets in some games at the end. You get to the end and it's very clear he's not going to get in some games. And they're like, well, that was never really something that we were going to do. Okay. But they are taking this, no pun intended, step by step because of the nature of the surgeries, because of the newness of the surgeries. There's not a whole lot of baseball-specific recovery plans for the way these surgeries are done. Yoenis Cespedes had a similar thing, but it's a far different procedure or improved procedure than that time. So they're mapping this out, going, okay, well, how much time does he need when he's up to baseball speed, and how do you recreate spring training, and is that less than 60 days? As of right now, their actions suggest that they think it's going to be less than 60 days, but they might think differently 24 hours from now when they have to clear that spot on the roster.
Derrick, moving on to the guy that did make the roster, J.J. Wetherholt. We just had the conversation in terms of the anticipation for a guy that is, I believe, the highest position player drafted by the Cardinals since J.D. Drew. Where are you at in terms of the anticipation and excitement to see the status of a guy like J.J. Wetherholt this year?
Yeah, I mean, from a story standpoint, I kind of love the symbolism of it, right? I was talking to Ollie yesterday. I was like, look, are you going to bat him leadoff? And, I was like, I'm not ready to reveal my lineup yet. And I was like, can you just give us the poetry of that? You guys are going into this rebuild, brand new direction. Just think of that moment that, the first batter you send to the plate is the guy who is the torchbearer for this next generation. I mean, it just writes itself, man. Can you just do that for me? And yeah. I mean, I think he might do it, to be honest.
He should. I mean, it really writes itself.
Also, he might just be the best guy for the job. So it might be one of those where, like, the poetry matches up with just the pragmatism of it.
And the production of it. I mean, look, there's a discussion. I mean, Alec Burleson had a really strong kick to the finish. Very impressive spring, very veteran spring from Alec Burleson, right? Guy goes out there, I got to make these improvements. I'm taking them from the cage to the batting, to the batter's box. I'm working on it. I'm not getting results. Then the final 2 weeks, timing is there, changes are there, adjustments are there, production is there. Just a very classic veteran kind of spring from Alec Burleson. And yet I probably could pull 10 scouts and, 6 of them would say J.J. Wetherholt's the best hitter on the team today. And 3 of them would say Ivan Herrera, and 2 of them would probably say Burleson. I mean, JJ, I know there's that 212 batting average that people will throw at me from spring training, but he impressed with just his command. There were probably 4 hitters that really stood out down there as far as their ownership of at bats, if that makes sense. Like, they're in the box and they're dictating. They have that look. You guys know that look of they're dictating at bats. And granted, again, it's spring training. Everything needs to come with context. But as far as that confidence of a hitter who's like, my timing is here, my approach is here, and this pitcher's not shaking me from it. I mean, the 4 guys were Wetherholt, Burleson, Herrera, and then Nolan Gorman towards the end. He really had that kind of feel of the command of his at bats. But Wetherholt really impressed. And if you look at like, oh, well, all right, who's the hitter on this team that you want to get the most at bats for because he might be the most productive in them? You could probably say Wetherholt. If you're not saying Herrera, you're probably saying Wetherholt.
All right, Derrick, we'll get you out of here on this, and we appreciate the time as always. Derrick Goold joining us here on 101 ESPN. If we go down this road of J.J. Wetherholt potentially is the leadoff hitter, that probably means knowing the righty-lefty matchup of it all. Burleson's probably your 3-hole hitter. Do you think win 2, Herrera 4, Herrera 2, win 4? How do you construct those 2 spots in the lineup?
This pretty good debate that was happening in the dugout yesterday. I mean, I think you probably do. Like, it's clear what kind of offense they think they need to have to score runs and what kind of offense they want to have. Mason Wynn makes a lot of contact. He runs the bases well. He's really moving around well with that healthy knee, probably something that we haven't talked a whole lot about and probably should. Is that power going to manifest? Is that contact? Well, he's a contact hitter, so he's going to get line drives. He's going to do more offensively. He has, he met a representative, a U.S. representative down here, and he was getting compliments for his season. And the guy was like, just a great year, great year. And Mason was like, I think I got to be better offensively. Don't you think I should be a better hitter? And it was like, it's like on his mind. He fits the profile that might go, all right, this is that kind of lineup and that's who they're going to bat second. A guy who can put the wheels in motion, contact, get things going, not going to hit into a whole lot of double plays, Mason's there, and then have some kind of runners on base for the thumps that they have, whatever thump they do develop from the Herrera, Burleson, Gorman group to generate runs in twos or occasionally threes.
Derrick, we're looking forward to opening day. We will be talking to Derrick Goold, by the way, on opening day. He'll be joining us late addition to the show. Looking forward to that out at Ballpark Village, just steps away from Busch Stadium, where the Cardinals will be taking the field for the first time in 2026. Looking forward to talking with you then. We'll talk with you soon, Derrick. Enjoy the rest of your drive home, and we'll talk with you later.
Yeah, looking forward to it. The weather's a little different here, guys, than Florida. Got to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
Just wait till Thursday when it's going to be 90 degrees. It won't feel that different.
Bust your swim trunks out and then get your coat back out.
I don't think I've ever covered a baseball game in swim trunks.
Well,
this might be the first year with 91 degrees.
Cardinals are doing something different, so is Derrick.
Yeah, why wouldn't you, Derrick?
Right.
You've just been in Jupiter for like a month. You'll get a nice tan.
No, that's right. I'll crack out the Tevas and the swim trunks, and I'll put some sunscreen on my nose, and I'll call it like I see it, like a lifeguard. That'll do it.
Maybe bust out a visor too, like a good visor in the sun.
Absolutely, yeah. Good call. I agree.
All right, Derrick. We appreciate the time.
Guys.
We'll talk with you on Thursday.
All right. See you on opening day.
You got it. That's Derrick Goold. Appreciate the time as always, joining us here on BK and Ferrario.
You were a visor guy. No, you were an upside down in the front visor guy.
You know I can't pull off visors, hats, anything.
Why, man?
Can't do it. Too small of a head. Small head, big nose doesn't work.
I can see that.
Well,
I look like a child.
The good thing about the visor is, though, like people are distracted from your face because the visor is such a weird look.
Yeah, okay. Coming up in about 15 minutes, we will talk a little bit more about your St. Louis Cardinals. How many National League teams are you actually confident are making it to the postseason this year? We'll get into that here in just a little bit. Questions and answers next here on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex on BK, we have the Underdog app ready to go for opening day, Alex. It's just a couple of days away, and that means you can get in on the action for the Cardinals on opening day. I'm going Junior Caminero. I know, but come on, let's be real. Higher than 0.5 home runs. Just got to hit one on opening day against the Cardinals. I've got J.J. Wetherholt to reach base, at least one. Higher than 0.5 total bases. And I like Ivan Herrera to get a hit on opening day as well. I've got a 50% profit boost over there on the Underdog app, which means my $5 entry with Caminero home run, Wetherholt total bases, Ivan Herrera with a hit, It is getting me $37 in return. It's all available to you over on the Underdog
And
app.
I got a Blues play for you. I've got 3 picks. Ovechkin, higher shots on goal. Snuggerud, higher goals. Thomas, higher points. 7-1 payout on that. So download the Underdog app today. Use promo code BKO to score $50 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code BKO. Underdog. Make plays. Win money. Must be 18 plus and present in Missouri. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/playing get terms _DFS_.html for details. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-MY-RESET or visit www.ncpgambling.org.
(314-399-9646) is the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers from the 314. Guys, the Cardinals are scheduled to play 31 games through April 30th. What will their record be when we wake up on the morning of May the 1st? 31 games, what will their record be on May 1st?
12-19. What was that?
Just a reminder.
You more optimistic about Jose Fermin contributing to some wins?
No, I don't think he's going to play much.
Oh, well, good thing he's on the roster.
I think they'll be around 500. Weirdish happens in the first month of the year. So I'm going to go like 14 and 17, 15 and 16, somewhere in that range.
19 and 12 is what he's going to say.
14 and 17. Little under 500.
Yeah.
It takes a little while for stuff like this to really show up in a meaningful way.
Wild realize
and then starting in May, you do 3 versus LA, the Dodgers, 3 versus Milwaukee, 4 on the road at San Diego, 3 on the road at the Athletics, and then you come home and play against Kansas City for 3. That's when you probably start to see it.
Ouch. Yeah, that's a lot tougher than the very beginning of the year.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers. From the 636, Alex, is there any player on the Blues roster under the age of 25 that you could see traded this offseason? Guess they're asking basically who's going to be this year's version of Zach Bolduc.
Boy, I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think I could think of anybody under the age of, because Kyrou would be the one that I'd point to. I don't think you're trading Neighbors. I don't think you're trading Snuggerud or Holloway. I guess if you want to say Otto Stenberg, I don't think they'd trade Otto Stenberg. I don't think Alexander Steen's first big move is going to be trading him. So I'd say if you set the over-under at a half, I'd take the under. I don't think any of them get moved.
I'm with you.
I don't really see it.
Unless it's a prospect, the guy that's playing in the AHL, like a Pekarchik or a Kaskamaki.
Yeah, but if you're asking guys on the current NHL roster, I don't think there is one.
No.
Yeah, I agree.
Bolduc was a very specific case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bolduc was moved because you had Jimmy Snuggerud, who emerged, and Holloway, and you drafted Carbonneau at 19.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. Last one here from the 618. Guys, will Justin Carbonneau be ready for next season, and where can you see him fitting in? Is he similar as a prospect to what Snuggerud was? So
No,
very different players.
Yeah, I think he's more similar to what Bolduc was. Pure goal scorer in juniors hockey. And yeah, I think he could make the roster next year. Depends on who they have on their spot and what direction they're in. I think he's a second or third line winger on this team. But I don't know what they're drafting. I don't know if they're going to draft another winger, because if they do and that guy's ready, then maybe Carbonneau starts in the minors. But yeah, I think he is going to be NHL ready. I mean, he was close to NHL ready this year, they said at training camp, with the way that they viewed him. So yeah, I think he's a second or third line winger for you.
Saw over on ESPN.com, they did a piece today on the top prospect in every system. They had Carbonneau as the top guy in the blue system
Really?
right now.
Over your check.
They said the 6'1" winger can really fly, keeping tight control over the puck, slipping it around the skates, under sticks, and behind defenders. His scoring tools are elite. With an excellent release, he can fire from uncomfortable positions. He also has a deceptive pass that draws multiple defenders before threading needles. And he has off-puck instincts to time himself into pockets for catching and releasing. They also added this, though. The decision-making is the area that needs development. When everything clicks, he looks like a legitimate first-line play driver, but when it doesn't, the turnovers multiply and his impact vanishes. Those turnovers could hold him back from earning trust at the NHL level right away. However, the tools, self-confidence, and adaptability suggest that the processing will eventually catch up, and Carbonneau's first-line ceiling is legit as a dual threat winger.
And that's why they sent him back to juniors this year. They said that we need him to go be responsible on the other end of the ice, much like they did with Bolduc. And he went from having 89 points last season and was a +3 in juniors to having 51 goals and 80 points and a +31 this season.
He's Alex. That's T-Bone on BK. You got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. In about 15 minutes, we'll talk to our guy Jeremy Rutherford here on BK and Ferrario. But next, how many National League teams are you actually confident will reach the postseason this year? And what would it take for the Cardinals to become one of them? We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. So how many National League teams are you actually confident will reach the postseason this year? Because those are spots that you would say they're tied up. You're not getting one of these. How many teams do you feel that way about right now? I think we all can say, yeah, the Dodgers are getting it.
No, that's...
I don't know what their record will be, but the Dodgers are getting in. If I played that as my first card, who would be your second pick? If we were drafting around the room right now, who would be the second overall selection if we were drafting National League playoff teams?
Cubs.
I think I'm with you.
I feel that way too. I think they're the team to beat in the NL Central.
I would put all of my money on that one because somebody's got to win that NL Central, and I think the Cubs are the better team of all of the rest.
All right, so we've got two. Two that we're
T-Bone,
confident
you're up on the
in.
snake draft.
Oh,
T-Bone,
damn.
what's your third?
I would probably, and I don't feel good about this as my third, would be the Phillies. I think once you get past the Cubs as the second one
Are
for me,
you
I'm
confident
out.
they will be in the playoffs this year?
I would have gone
feel
the Mets.
fairly confident. I think they're winning the East. I think the
Okay.
Phillies are winning the East. But again, like if you told me like we're just going by confidence rating, one would be the Dodgers, two would be the Cubs, and then I would just say, okay, I'm willing to listen on everybody.
Let me ask it a different way. Are you confident that the Phillies will win at least 86 games this year? Because I think that's probably around where the cutoff will be.
I think they are an 86 win team, worst case scenario.
86 plus.
Yeah.
Do you
I
have
the
a
Mets there.
fourth?
I have the Mets.
I do too.
Yeah.
I think the Mets pitching is very good.
I'd have the Mets over the Phillies because I think the Phillies pitching is not as good.
We're on the same page there. I'm in agreement. I think the Phillies, the top portion of their pitching staff is very good.
Yep.
I do not like the fact that I don't know if Zach Wheeler's going to pitch again this year. I just don't know how you can have confidence in that. And we don't know what Nola's going to be. He looked good in the WBC, but in general, he's just not been very good over the last couple of years.
He's their biggest X factor.
Yep.
Because if he gets back to what he was prior to the contract that he signed, to me, they're winning the division. And that's why I picked him, because I think what he did in the World Baseball Classic is going to translate.
All right, so that's 4. You guys have anybody else?
I mean, I'd put the Brewers there because they always seem to be there.
Yeah, I'm going to clip it. I'm not going to pick them. I'm not picking the Brewers. I'm sure I'll live to regret it, but I'm not doing it.
I think the Brewers are in the
That's
same
it.
category as the Diamondbacks, the Padres, Giants, Braves, and then that would be
And
about
that's
it.
why I don't have confidence, because I don't know who's going to emerge from that group. The Brewers could make it. The Reds could make it. The Padres, Giants, or Diamondbacks could make it. I just don't know who's going to make it out of those teams. Like I don't feel any more or less confident about one than the rest. I think they're all pretty darn flawed. Like honestly, I think the Giants should be expected to make the playoffs this year.
I agree.
Will they? Man, I don't know. But I think they should be expected to get there. And this gets us to something that I was reading earlier today over on The Athletic. You ready, Alex?
No, because I know where you're going with this.
So they asked the question, how does each team make it to the postseason this year? And for the Cardinals, they said the following.
This better be like a 10-word count.
Here's the thing about the National League. Yeah, you got the Dodgers, and you got a few more teams that have a pretty good shot to win 90 games. But when you're thinking about that last wild card or two, the pickings start to get slimmer. Right now, the 6th best projected record in the league is 82-80, a projected tie between Milwaukee, Pittsburgh, and San Francisco. It's not wild to think that a win total in the lower 80s could get you into the dance this year, the way that it did in 2023 for the Diamondbacks and Marlins, and the way that it did a year ago for the Cincinnati Reds. The Cardinals could be that team if some of their youth arrives earlier than expected, and the pitching staff is surprisingly competent. They said the comparison that they would use is last year's Cincinnati Reds, who their preseason projection was 74 wins. Their actual win total was 83, and they ended up in the wild card round. Could you guys see it?
I absolutely could see it. And
Because the Cardinals are projected with 67.
I kind of had like, oh, that's wild. What a bad year this is going to be. But
I don't think they're that bad.
I don't think they're that bad either. I think T-Bone thinks...
You know, Wynn could be your cleanup hitter on opening day.
I don't believe that. I reject it.
Okay.
He's right. It's for me.
Sorry, he rejected
It's
it.
Jose for me because he's on the roster and he provides that pop. I can see it because I think that last spot is exactly what they compared it to with the Reds last year. Connor McDavid just said it best about the Pacific Division in hockey. It's a pillow fight. I think the National League, last 2 teams that'll be getting in, will be a pillow fight. Your offense is bad. I mean, plain and simple, you're relying on Herrera, Burleson, and some lofty expectations that Gorman and Walker can come out of nowhere, and then Wetherholt is a rookie. I think your offense is not going to be able to win you baseball games. Your pitching has to be really damn good to win you baseball games. So can I see it? Absolutely, because I think the Cardinals are going to be in the same spot as everyone fighting for that last wild card spot. I would not put my money on it because I think your pitching's going to have injuries, and I don't trust the depth, even though they've got bodies. I don't trust it at the major league level. And you're hitting, your pop is coming from two guys. Two guys is where your home run potential is coming from. I'm not putting Gorman in it.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, you're right. But I can't see it. I think this is what the path would be, is it is a pillow fight. I just think the Cardinals are going to the pillow fight with just a pillow sheet. They didn't bring the pillow.
No feathers in there.
That was really good, man. That would hurt worse, actually.
I don't know.
Towel whip some people.
Because, I can't see their offense being very good, which that's fine because you look at the Reds. The Reds' offense wasn't great last year either, and Ellie De La Cruz fell off of a cliff in the second half. But, as exciting as the pitching is, and, we got all excited about stuff, they're late on the stuff game. That's why we're excited about it. Who's their Abbott, Lodelo, and Green? The Reds had a 1-2-3 monster at the top of their rotation. And you might be able to convince me on one guy doing what Lodelo did. You could convince me Liberatore could be him. Okay, but I'm not buying that there's going to be a second. Well, I think he's going to be traded. That's the problem. I think if May does bounce back, he's gone. Okay, well, now I just got rid of that guy. So now who's the other two that are going to replace that? So that's why I can't see it. Because you can get by having a bad offense as long as your pitching's really good. And I do think the offense is going to be bad. I just don't know the pitching's going to be good enough to be able to carry it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's incredibly unlikely, but I think there's a scenario where the National League just is so bad that you take advantage of it because of variance. Because baseball's weird and sometimes weird stuff happens, and that's not a good explanation or really. I don't think I'm giving you a hard sell on this. It probably doesn't feel that way. That's because I'm not. I can't. There is no hard sell on why the Cardinals are going to win 85 games this year. It's pretty unlikely. But I didn't think that the Reds could do it last year either, and then weird stuff happened. And I think they got pretty fortunate, and they ended up in the postseason because of it. A couple of years ago, that Marlins team was not good. I remember we talked to Skip Schumacher. They had this ridiculous bullpen early in the year. They were winning all these stupid one-run games, and he came on. He's like, yeah, I don't know, man. Our bullpen's been really good, and that's why we're winning all of these one-run games. Could the Cardinals be that? Maybe that's their quote-unquote secret weapon, is that the bullpen ends up being a lot better than we expect it to be. The rotation is fine, and they get a couple of timely hits. And if they get that, you're in the mix once you get to the trade deadline. Maybe they say, you know what? We're going to bring back Dustin May, so let's just keep him on the roster. We'll sign him to a 3-year deal or something.
Hell yeah.
And now at that point in time, Quinn Matthews has made his way to the major league level. He has replaced Andre Palante. And I don't know, Bryson Motts is at the big league level as well. And he's surprised, and he looks really good too. All right, cool. Now you've got a pitching staff that's interesting. You're winning a few more games down the stretch. And you've got, I don't know,
Velasquez hitting home runs for
Baez is in the outfield, and he's in the midst of a projecting over the full season 2020 kind of year.
Doing?
He's chilling.
Oh. Where's he chilling at?
Last year,
beat
Milwaukee
lab?
had 166 homers. I'm going to do some math during the break to see if we can get the Cardinals there. Jeremy
166?
Jeremy Rutherford joins us next here on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Happy to be joined in studio today by our guy, Blues insider for The Athletic. He's Jeremy Rutherford joining us here on the show. JR, what's good?
You forgot to say NCAA expert.
Oh, yeah?
How's your bracket looking?
I can't name 5 college basketball players. Like, literally, if you said write 5 names down on this piece of paper, we'll give you $1 million, I lose out on the $1 million. But I got 14 out of 16.
Oh,
Sweet 16.
look
How
at
about
you.
that? Yeah, how about that?
Did your wife
Feeling
pick
good
him? And
about
she's
it.
like, I'll take care of this.
The dog did.
The dog did. BK had his
That's
kid
every bit
take
as
care of
good.
it the one year, and it was better than what he does every year.
Yeah. My wife typically does better than me. She forgot to fill it out this year.
Oh.
But
So what's her
normally-
Sweet 16 look like?
Yeah, right. Normally, she's significantly better at doing the bracket than me. Do you enjoy the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, I do, yeah. I mean, plus it's been great basketball, right? Like, me and the little guy have been watching it. It seems like every game's coming down to last possession. It's been
Especially the
great.
second round was fun. Do you care at all? We'll get to the Blues here in just a second. Do you care at all about the death of the Cinderella story? Does that matter to you, or do you just like watching the high-level hoops that we're
I
seeing?
like watching the good basketball, but yeah, I mean, you do miss it. Like you saw that with High Point, right? And typically you'd see that go into the second, third, sometimes fourth round, but that's not happening as much, and we all know why. But yeah, part of that element is gone.
I don't think that the Blues are going to be a Cinderella story
No.
this year.
Hey, there's a
Transition.
2.8% chance that could happen. So
Is it that high?
It keeps going up because everyone else loses.
Man,
Yeah,
that's,
it's like 2.6%, I think Money Puck had it at.
That's higher than I would have anticipated. JR, yesterday we talked about what this team has done in 2026 and 2025-26 season when they have Robert Thomas on the ice versus what they
I
are
heard your
when he's
numbers.
out. So when he plays, they're 24-19-9, which isn't great, but it's solid. It's good enough to get you on the fringe of a playoff
Great in the Pacific.
situation. Yeah. When he doesn't play, they're 4-11-2. They're significantly worse than Vancouver, who's the worst team in the NHL right now. To me, I see those numbers and I'm like, that's why you don't trade the guy. That's why you keep him here, and he becomes one of the reasons why you get back into contention, hopefully, in the next few seasons. When you see those numbers, what does it say to you?
Yeah, I heard you say the numbers yesterday, and it got me thinking. I'm driving down the road listening, and I think 2 things. One is it shows you what the Blues are thinking, that if they would trade a player who has numbers like those, it means that they're taking that step back and they're fine bringing in a couple players, assets, prospects who are in that 23 to 25 age bracket. We saw what the return could be for Robert Thomas with Buffalo, and that's exactly what they're shooting for. So to me, it shows that, yes, they would like to be competitive, but we talked to Tom Stillman recently, and he said the competitiveness, wasn't there like they had hoped that part of the retool would bring. But they're continuing down the road of bringing in these young players. And if it takes, these aren't Tom's words, but my words, if it takes 2 or 3 years, then that's what it's going to take. And if they feel that at that time when they're ready to win, Robert Thomas is past that window and he's quote 29, 30, that doesn't fit what they want to do. So it tells me that regardless of the numbers that you can come up with, they've made a decision that goes against what that would support, what you're saying. And then secondly, my question is, even if you buy into that plan, and Alex and I have talked about this, what does that do for the development of a Jimmy Snuggerud and a Dylan Holloway? And maybe they're willing to accept that, okay, there's going to be other young players coming in and they're going to be great in 3 years and really help this team in the long run, but you're still not getting the development out of those types of guys if you don't have a Robert Thomas.
Well, and I know we've had this conversation before to where it's like when you're trying to convince some of these guys of the direction, the answer to it is, well, you're under contract, so it doesn't matter what you think. But I have to imagine if you're Alex Steen, you're taking into consideration what it's going to do to a Snuggerud and a Holloway, who, yeah, they're under your control for the next 5+ years, but you kind of want them enthralled with the idea of continuing to develop rather than losing the guy that Snuggerud is called the guy in the locker room.
Yeah, and let's just look at that for 1 second. Like, I don't pretend to know what guys could be in 3 years, but we're just going to look at it like, I know that if you don't have a Robert Thomas passing to Jimmy Snuggerud, he's not going to be the player that he could have been in 3 years. And maybe bring in somebody else to replace it. Maybe somebody steps up that fills the void. Maybe somebody comes close to giving you what Robert Thomas gives you, but we don't see anybody in the organization that could do that right now. And maybe big picture in the long haul, you're better off for it because what you brought back for Robert Thomas just really helps this organization in a couple years. But I don't see how you can sit here and make a case that Snuggerud and Holloway and a couple of these young wingers are going to be the best they can be without somebody who can drive that.
We're talking to Jeremy Rutherford here on 101 ESPN. JR, a lot of the conversation early in the season was about that Mayu Bolduc trade. Bolduc, I think, has 0 goals, and it's his last 30 games at this point. Meanwhile, Logan Mayu is playing more than 20 minutes a night recently and has at least been fine. Like, his play has been at worst passable. How do you feel like that conversation has shifted, and what does it mean for Logan Mayu moving forward?
Yeah, I think it has shifted. Now, listen, I don't watch Bolduc on a regular basis, but it's surprising to me. 30 games. Like, I thought that he was going to be, and he still can be, but I just thought he was going to be able to be, at least a third liner, potentially play up in a pinch and help you out offensively. But he struggled up there with Mayu. Probably just like the Blues suspected, just like they planned. That development was going to take some time. They took the hard steps. They sent him to the American Hockey League. They healthy scratched him. They played him 14 minutes a game. They did all those types of things knowing that, eventually it could come. And it is coming. And you're right. Like, he's not lighting it up. But the fact that he played 26 minutes against Calgary, the fact that he's playing in the top pair with Philip Broberg, and you're not noticing him from a mistake standpoint every night. Like, there's some mistakes in there. But I really do think that when all said and done, Logan Mayu is going to be a top 4 defenseman playing the right side, and it could be as soon as next year. And the way I envision this Blues defense is that when Colton Parayko does move on, Juracek, who's been compared to Pietrangelo, is going to be that top pair right side guy, and Mayu is going to slot in right below him.
So we had somebody, and I don't know if, BK, you were the one that brought it up to me last week, or if we had a listener say it, but if Mayu's play and how he's performed over this last stretch makes it more likely that the Blues go back to Colton Parayko and say, look, man, didn't work out with Buffalo, but we're going to look for a trade again? Or do you look at it the opposite direction to where Juracek's coming in and you still need a guy like Parayko who's kind of helping Theo Lindstein along right now?
If none of the Parayko stuff got out, I would say that they want him to stay here for another year or two and let Juracek kind of slide in there, see what he can do, see how much he can take on, and Mayu can come in there and help that too. And then probably Parayko wouldn't see the end of his contract with the Blues, but he'd see another year or two. Now that they've made their intentions clear with what they want to do, I think they're going to circle back with Parayko this offseason and try to see how they can move him.
So this is the part that's hard for me to differentiate here, because, like, on one hand, you see Robert Thomas and you're like, damn, that's a good-looking line. I don't know how you move on from that. But if you keep Robert Thomas and you move on from Colton Parayko, it feels like you're trying to do 2 different things at once, because I don't know how you're selling on we're going to stay on this competitive path and get rid of a guy who eats 23 minutes a night for you.
Yeah, so the way I see it is this, and I hate to be so big picture, but the only thing you can really go by is what you see their true intentions are, and it was to move Robert Thomas. It was to move Colton Parayko. So I don't think they're looking at a situation where, unless they change their mind on somebody, where they want to keep a Robert Thomas and move a Parayko. I think they've made it clear that they want to move on from Robert Thomas, potentially Jordan Kyrou, Colton Parayko, and this is going to become the Snuggerud, Dvorsky, Stenberg, Carbonneau, Juracek, Theo Lindstein, with guys like a Holloway and a Broberg, who you think of as another level above those guys. And I think that's what's their vision for this team, and that's how it's going to come together. So, now, does the play of Robert Thomas and the stuff we're talking about, development of Snuggerud, Holloway, can that change their mind in the last couple of weeks of the season? Or do they have a conversation this summer where they say, you know what, let's hang on to Robert at least another year? Could those things change and they hang on to him? It could. But I think from what I was told, that trade with Robert Thomas was far down the line. Now, they didn't go to Robert. He confirmed that. They didn't ask him to waive the no trade. But it was so far down the line that the words I heard from people with knowledge of the situation was, there's no way the Blues don't go revisit that this summer.
So you're going into a rebuild then? I mean, they could call it whatever they want. They could say it's a retool. And
that's close to a tank. If we're talking, and like, not to the point where you get rid of everybody, but
you got rid of Shen, you got rid of Falk. If you're getting rid of Parayko, like, I don't see a scenario where you get rid of Thomas and keep Jordan Kyrou.
Or
and if
Bennington.
Bennington's part. But if I'm
Probably
moving
move
on
Benner,
Thomas
too.
and Kyrou, you're probably going to Buchnevich and be like, you want to be a part of this? I highly doubt Buchnevich
That
wants
one
to
I
be
think is more about like, can you move him
that's
than
more
anything
can
else.
you do it, and if they could, they probably would have done that. And with Binnington, all respect to Jordan Binnington, but they've already kind of,
Pass it over to Hofer.
handed it off to Joel Hofer. So that's a different situation.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, and listen,
Hold on, but
I'm
sorry,
not saying
Jared.
it's wrong.
No,
but man, that sucks.
But
to
you
think
know
about.
what's frustrating about that is how they're performing down the stretch, and you're putting yourself in a position where you're probably going to select 6th or 7th when you're going to blow it all up this offseason. That's the part that's like, wait a minute, what?
yeah, and this would probably take more than 30 seconds. We probably need a segment to talk
That's
about
fine.
this.
We don't need to talk about Jordan Walker.
But
If you got a little bit of time, we can carry it over.
yeah, no, but when you guys say like full rebuild, like you look what San Jose did. I mean, you didn't recognize a name on that roster, and for a while, you look at even Arizona before they went to Utah, it was just a lot of draft picks that they had, right? I think the Blues would probably counter this argument of a full rebuild by saying the names Broberg, Holloway, Jake Neighbors, Snuggerud. Like these guys are a year or two into things. So it's not a situation where you look at the Blues roster and for the next 3 years you won't recognize names. I would say that they would probably call this something between a retool and a rebuild, not a full rebuild.
Now we have to come up with another
Yeah,
word.
whatever, right?
Yeah, well, the problem with the Sharks was, too, they drafted Will Smith 4th overall, who's been a number 1 player for them. You get Macklin Celebrini, who's not in this draft, and then you just drafted another guy who's a top 6 winger.
Yeah, well, and beyond that, like to use the Utah example, right? They still haven't emerged.
Right.
Like they've been doing this for a decade, and it took a little bit of that was just like, let's be as bad as humanly possible. And the Blues aren't doing that to the same degree, but you don't know once you get into this, you don't know how long it's going to take to get out on the other side. And if that's my thing with Robert Thomas that I struggle with. And I understand, like, listen, he's not a perfect hockey player. We've talked about this for years now, where I think I've probably been the low man on our show of Robert Thomas, and now I've suddenly transitioned into I'm the one that's arguing for him. It's a weird place to be. But if you get rid of that guy, it reminds me a little bit, he's not the same player, but a little bit of the Pietrangelo thing, where once you get rid of it, you're immediately looking for it. And if you get rid of Robert Thomas, I don't see the plan to get a number 1 center. Those guys don't grow on trees.
Okay,
it's really hard.
So I don't disagree, but let me be the Blues for a minute,
Please.
and say, okay, so and I think that Robert Thomas can help this team, and if he's 29, he's 29. He can help this team if they're ready to win in 3 years. So let's set that straight. But if I'm the Blues, I would say, okay, well, what would keeping Robert Thomas and then rolling out with Snuggerud, divorce, where's that going to get us in the next 2 to 3 years? And in 3 years, will we regret not trading Robert Thomas for, see these 3 guys here? Look where they're at now, and look how they could be helping this situation and be closer to our age bracket. And these are going to be first-round picks. These are going to be top-line centers potentially. And so I think we just don't have the benefit of being 3 years from now looking back at the situation.
I would say this, and my retort to that fair argument would be just go back through the last 3 NHL drafts and find out how many of those players you would say, or like, but maybe it's the last 5, right? Because you got to go back a little bit.
Say the last 3, if you're going to say number 1 centers, there's actually been 2 of them drafted.
Sure, but even like beyond that, how many of those players would you take 3 of them for Robert Thomas? Like, there's just not a lot, because generally speaking, prospects don't become as good as what Robert Thomas has been. He's a really good hockey player. Right. So could one of those players that you trade Robert Thomas for become a better version of Robert Thomas? He could, but it's a low percentage outcome. And I already have Robert Thomas. And so what I would argue for is probably the better, in my opinion, way to go is keep him in place, sell some of the other stuff, like move on from Jordan Kyrou if you want to do that. Try to go make a big play for, use some of these assets that you've been able to acquire to go get a Jason Robertson or whoever the next big winger is, because to me, that's this team's biggest flaw. They don't have a go-to scorer. And they really haven't been that. They haven't had that number 1 go-to scorer in years now.
So you have to grow that, or you're going to have to, in 2 or 3 years, when you're ready to spend on that type of player.
Yeah, spend on it, grow it, or
go do it.
Go trade for one.
It's hard to spend for it, though. You're going to have to
ways.
trade for it or find one in the draft somewhere because you're not going to sign one.
Okay, but the compromise to what you're saying, let's say you decide you want to keep Robert Thomas. Like we've been talking for 2 years, you got to break up the core, 3 years, whatever. So are you able to trade Jordan Kyrou and Pavel Buchnevich and Colton Parayko and Jordan Bennington this summer, and now you're rolling with the guy who you're saying, and I don't disagree with you, Robert Thomas, the guy who drives everything with the younger guys, and say, hey, look, he's a couple years older, and we might not win until he's 29 or 30, but we want to hang on to him for that reason. If you can have that scenario where you can trade those players that I mentioned, then maybe that's a compromise of the two arguments we're having.
But in my scenario, I might just keep Parayko. Well,
that's why
the one guy that I would consider remaining in place as well. And I know they may view it as like we're too far down the road. That's fair. I don't think you ever have to do anything. He said he wants to be here. You could just say, you want to be here. We had an offer on the table that was hard to refuse. That offer maybe is no longer there, or we've just changed our mind. We have somebody new that's in place. We'll keep him in.
And the hard part with that, too, is
in the fold.
They've, at least from what we've heard and what's been reported on, they've actively been looking for pieces to move Jordan Kyrou for from this past offseason to this year's deadline, and nobody's willing to pay the price that they value it as. So those pieces that you're just getting rid of, are you able to better your roster for now with those pieces? Because those pieces might be only worth pennies on the dollar right now for how much they've underperformed. It's why when we went back to that Thomas conversation during the deadline, and I was the one that was like, I mean, look, it may make sense. I don't like the idea of it for how good that line's looked, but from what the Blues are asking for Utah, I mean, as much as you don't want to take that step back, that's 3 guys that were drafted in the top 5 over the last 4 years. You're at least advancing the conversation. To me, it's like I don't know how you sell, and I'm only going off of what Tom Stillman talked with us about on the podcast, to where it's like, look, we're still in the same line that we were. Well, 3 years ago, you were in the line of this is a retool, and we're going to be in that competitive window, not for a cup, but for the playoffs at the end of those 3 years. And now you're going to tell me the same thing, that, it's on the same trajectory that we were thinking, but you're going to trade away all these pieces that made you competitive. Like, it feels like I'm getting mixed messages.
No, I hear you, but I think they have.
Stupid Cardinals did this to me for 10 years.
I think the message has been a little bit different recently than it was a couple years ago. I think it's okay, yes, this competitive thing didn't work, and it's not working. So we were going down these 2 tracks. We tried to balance both of them. The competitive one's not working. We're going to continue to focus, which they feel, and I agree with them, that never fell off track. Like that, planning for the future, that thing is still here. So I just think that they've kind of accepted the fact that the competitive thing isn't going to work, and they're going to have to focus everything on these young guys.
Cool. I just wanted to go into this rest of the week on a down note.
Both local teams potentially going into a rebuild at the same time will be
good thing we got the Billikens next year, right?
That's right. And Mizzou.
No.
Illinois.
Oh, yeah, Illinois will be good. Mizzou.
Got that to go for.
All right,
Jared, well, thanks for bringing a lot of vibes.
Thanks for kicking me in the nards here, JR.
Appreciate it.
Well, and listen, I don't want to delay the break here, but
no, it's fine.
I think that most of that is pretty obvious and not headline making, right? I feel like that we see the direction they're going. Look, a lot of that stuff doesn't get out. When the Thomas stuff gets out, the Parayko stuff gets out, like that's just reality. That's what they're trying to do. And if we think that they want to be competitive, Robert Thomas is the way to stay competitive. So if they're moving them, that's not what their intentions are.
He's Jeremy Rutherford. You can find his great work over at The Athletic. He makes you smarter. He helps you understand where the team is going, and we always appreciate his time here on BK and Ferrario. By the way, the Puck Cancer event is coming up this week. It's on Friday at the Centene Community Ice Center. It is the 3rd period with the Puck Cancer event. Tune in Friday afternoon. The Fast Lane will be broadcasting live there. We will have David Backus joining us coming up in a little bit more than 20 minutes. Kelly Chase continues his battle, bringing together Blues alumni and NHL alumni for another special night in support of Siteman Cancer Center and the V Foundation for Cancer Research. Get your tickets right now for the great game coming up on Friday night to support those 2 great organizations. Then you can tune into pregame on Friday afternoon for the Fast Lane Live from the Centene Community Ice Center. JR, appreciate the time, man. We'll talk with you again next week.
Thanks, guys.
You got it. That's Jeremy Rutherford joining us here on 101 ESPN. Coming up next, we'll talk a little bit about Jordan Walker. Is he suddenly on the clock, kind of like Robert Thomas?
Oh,
talk
come
about
on,
that next
man.
year on 101 ESPN.
Alex Ferrario with you to talk about my friends out at Ted Drew's, the St. Louis tradition that has been around since 1929, and it is officially open for its 97th season. And I know that place is going to be the spot to be prior to opening day on Thursday. It's what that tradition has been about. 4 generations, a family-run business that has been built on quality service and a love for St. Louis. And that's what you get when you're out there. Their motto, our business is service. You see it when you walk up to one of those windows and order that famous frozen custard with the incredible warm, welcoming atmosphere that's there at Ted Drew's. Plus, you can mix and match your flavors, or you could get their flavors that are all set up for you. They've got tons of them. If you're looking for Blues or Cardinal specials, they've got those as well. Plus, they're hiring, so if you're looking for a spring and summer job, teddrews.com is the place to be to get all of that information. And while you're there, walk across the parking lot and check out their gift shop and historical museum. It's Ted Drew's, real custard, real tradition. Ted Drew's, it's St. Louis.
Tanner Hendrickson here with the Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Blues back in action tonight as they host the Washington Capitals. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 6 o'clock with Alex Ferrario. Puck drop at 7 o'clock with Chris Kerber and Joey Vitale. And yet yesterday, the St. Louis Cardinals wrapped up spring training. They will be back in action on Thursday for opening day. 3:15 will be first pitch as Matthew Liberatore will get the start for the Cardinals. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin Heating and Air Conditioning dealer.
Is Jordan Walker on the clock? That's the question that I emerged from yesterday.
Why is that, buddy?
Because Nelson Velazquez is not making the opening day roster.
Because Jose Fermin's probably going to take his spot in right field?
No, because it seems like there's just a lot of timelines that match up with, all right, the first month of the season kind of matters now for Jordan Walker. Ollie mentioned yesterday they're going to, kind of shape this thing in a way where Walker's not going to be playing every day. He'll play most days, but it's probably a day or two each week where he'll be off because the matchups are better for certainly Church when they're going up against right-handed pitching, but also potentially a Thomas Saggese. Like maybe Saggese handles the shape of the pitch mix from the opposing pitcher a little better than Jordan Walker would.
Uh-oh.
God.
Doesn't handle
He didn't say
well.
all of that, but that's the long-form version of what I think Ollie was portraying yesterday when he said, hey, there might be a day or two each week where Walker's able to get off of his feet. You also have the situation with Herrera where maybe early in the season, he's only catching like once a week instead of him being behind the plate 2, 3, or 4 times a week. Okay, well, that means Herrera's a DH almost every day, which means you don't have that extra at-bat, that extra opportunity for Walker to get into the lineup in a different way, or Saggese to get into the lineup in a different way if Gorman was going to go be a DH a day or two every week, right? And then you have the Nootbaar timeline, where he has not yet been placed on the 60-day IL. And even if he is, all right, there's your 2 months, 2-month stretch there. They're saying they want to see what Nelson Velazquez does down at AAA. All right, well, if he hits the crap out of the ball, that could put you on the clock. If Joshua Baez goes down and performs at AAA, that could potentially put you on the clock. What happens if both Saggese and Nathan Church hit? Do you just keep Walker in the lineup over those guys? Or do you eventually, after, 3-4 weeks, say, you know what? These guys are better right now, and there's really no reason to believe that Walker's going to be better than them long term. Is it time for us to start putting him on the clock more than we expected to, Alex?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, I've said this, and I will remain steadfast on this. The moment that you're taking him out of the lineup and out of right field to play a Saggese, a Church, a Velazquez, a Nootbaar, or a Joshua Baez is the moment that you said, okay, We're done with it, and he's not going to get. We're done with this project. He's not ever going to touch the surface of what we believe. And at that point, you need to move on. Now, you're not just going to trade him for nothing. Maybe you just let this thing play itself out and move forward that way. But there will be no more conversation of, well, you need to get reps for Jordan Walker. Well, we need to see what he's made of. The moment the Cardinals make that decision is the moment that you're done. So you just got to decide who's the one that's chasing down that spot. Because is it Church? I kind of feel like they view Church as just one of those fourth outfield guys rather than an everyday person that's a part of the future.
I'm not sure I agree with that.
Maybe Sajasi. And then it gets down to when Baez, and I'm not putting Velasquez in that conversation. Like if we're putting Velasquez or, in my opinion, Nathan Church in over Jordan Walker, unless Church just tears the cover off the ball for the first month and a half, 2 months, I don't think that's a part of the future. But I do believe that the moment you pull Jordan Walker off the field and say, well, this guy's playing over him, is the moment that you're done with this project.
What if I told you that Thomas Sajasi had these numbers in his minor league career? Over the past 2 seasons at Double-A, he hit 270. Didn't hit for a whole lot of pop, though. But he hit 270, finished the year with an OPS right around 700. Did the same thing the year prior as a 22-year-old, hit 280. Not quite as much pop as you would hope, but it was successful nonetheless. And then last year, at multiple different levels overall, hit 330 for the year, had a 525 slugging percentage, OPS over 900, and had 15 home runs in 85 games. How would you guys feel about that if it was Thomas Sajasi who did that over the past 3 years, and now at the age of 25, he's getting his opportunity, his first extended opportunity at the major league level? Are you excited about him?
I'd say that's pretty impressive. Yeah. Now, is this not his numbers? Is this like Church's numbers?
This is Nathan Church over the past 3 years.
Yeah, I'm not falling for your game.
Yeah, I'm not falling for it.
The reason that I'm bringing this
Casual
up is
Gersh.
because it does remind me a lot of the Brendan Donovan conversation. I don't know if he's going to be the next Brendan Donovan. The odds are against it. Donnie was one of one. But a lot of the things that you hear about Nathan Church are some of the things that you heard at the time about Brendan Donovan. Hey, he kind of does everything pretty well. You're not going to be blown away by any one tool, but he gets on base pretty well. He hits for average. He's got a little more pop than maybe you expect him to. He works his ass off, as good of a guy as you could possibly meet. And yeah, he's a bit of a late bloomer, and he wasn't exactly like a top prospect. Hell, he wasn't even the top prospect at his own position at any point in time in the Cardinal system, but he just kept working. He just kept getting better, and now he's at the big league level, and it's kind of undeniable that he's our best option. Like, that was the Brendan Donovan story, and eventually he made himself into an all-star. Why can't Nathan Church become that? Like, why are we so certain that this guy can't be a good or productive big leaguer for the St. Louis Cardinals? This is honestly what most of the Cardinals' productive players have looked like in their minor league careers. It's what Lars Nootbaar was before figuring it out. It's what Brendan Donovan was before he figured it out. It's what Matt Carpenter was before he figured it out. Like, most of their top prospects don't end up working out, and a lot of the time it's the guys that were able to marinate more in the minor league level and went through the correct development system, development process before getting to the big leagues. Then they struggle for a little bit, and then, they figure it out. That's what Tommy Edman was too. Why can't he be a good big leaguer?
Why can't he? I'm not saying he can't. It's just I have very little faith that it becomes that, because you gave me a few options, but go through Major League Baseball and how many of those guys turn into it. Like, the Cardinals do this well, but how many times, with the exception of Matt Carpenter, I'll set Matt Carpenter aside because he was that guy there for a while, couldn't play the position defensively that they needed, but offensively he was it. How many of those guys turned into the piece where you were like, yeah, that's the guy that can help us get there?
Oh, see, I'm not expecting Nathan Church to ever be somebody that's like your best player.
No, I'm not saying, but that's
can he be a starter?
Well, yeah, he's a starter over these guys, but my hope is I get better.
Can he be a starter on a good team? The answer might be yes.
On a good team, yes. On a team that's trying to be a consistent championship contender, I'd say no.
How's Tommy Edman viewed? Can he be a starter on a team that's trying to win a championship?
I mean, he was a super utility guy on the team that did win the championship.
He was a starter for them. Mm-hmm. He started.
But by the end of that series, he wasn't consistently out there.
He was every day playing in the lineup somewhere. You didn't always know where he was playing, but he was going to be playing in the lineup either in center, second, or short every day.
See, that would be carrying more on his, not on his bat, but on his
defense, because his bat wasn't
but
very
he's
good.
Good enough as a bat to be in the lineup.
But Church isn't what Tommy Edman was in terms of second base, shortstop, third base.
He might be that defensively in the outfield, though. He might be a guy that adds value with his feet as a base stealer, because, I mean, last year in the minor league system, over the last 3 years, his stolen base numbers by year in the minor leagues, 21, 24, and 16 last year in 86 games. He's a guy that can steal bases for you. He also adds value as a defender in the outfield. He's very good defensively out there. He can play any position. He can play center, left, or right for you at any time. He's got a cannon of an arm, so he can be there. And his bat might be fine. It might actually be a better bat than what Tommy Edman was or has been. And he's left-handed, which makes him that much more valuable because 70% of the pitching that you see is right-handed. I'm just not so certain that this guy is somebody that we should be writing off. I'm not excited about it because I don't think he's going, like, I'm not saying he's JJ Wetherholt, but can he be the 8th best starter in a lineup for a contender? I'm leaving the light open for that.
I think if you can find the superstars to not be talking about Nathan Church. But that's where, for me, with Nathan Church, can he be a starter for you? Absolutely. He's the guy that I think I'm still asking for an upgrade over.
I don't know. I truly don't know. And like, you can't just always say, if you're not a superstar, you can't be here. We're only searching for superstars because then you're going to end up being wrong on just about everything.
I'm not saying that for him. I'm just saying they have to have superstars. And if somebody comes in 2 outfield positions in terms of Josh Baez and whomever else, then Nathan Church kind of out of luck there.
Agreed. But those guys aren't here. Like, Nelson Velasquez is not going to be a superstar. Whoa. It ain't happening for him.
Well, if he would have made the roster, he would have had a chance.
He's having Mo run the roster.
He's probably worse than Nolan Gorman.
You just want to point everybody out that's better than Velasquez. Velasquez is a better player than for me, and I looked at the numbers.
I don't know
better
that
than Victor
is.
Scott. Maybe you should put him out there.
Yeah.
Well, he can't defend.
This is great.
Put Nathan Church in center and put Velasquez in left.
Maybe that might be the answer by June. Sure. Like, it legitimately could be that is the way they go.
But again,
find out?
But again, that's the problem, though. Like, you're always going to be saying, like, that tells you where Victor Scott's at, where we're talking about Nathan Church over him.
I just gotta say, I love the full circle moment for BK on Nathan Church and Robert Thomas, by the way. But I love it on Nathan Church.
New information,
I brought this up when he was called up originally and started to play, and I brought it up to both you, and I was laughed at, and you said, no way. And then I brought it up to Katie at the time, our Cardinals, and she said, Tanner, it's not a competition. And now here we are going, yeah, but how about in left field we play him out there? And I'm not even arguing, like, I don't care either way, right?
To be fair, right now the information has changed in that, like, if Nootbaar was on this roster and healthy,
we wouldn't even be having this conversation.
He's not playing. Church isn't playing right now.
Sure.
He's probably your 4th outfielder.
You
or not on the roster.
He didn't win the job, though, over Velasquez.
He should have won.
Like, Velasquez was the better bat in spring training.
Yeah, but he wouldn't
be. And he has exactly what they don't have, a.k.a. power. And, by the way, right-handed. So,
yes,
what's your, like, I get it. Some of the information has changed. And I am open to trying him in left field because, to be honest, he did earn the job in left field. I agree with that. I don't know if he's a big leaguer or not, but I don't know that he's going to be the next Brendan Donovan. You know why I say that? When Donovan got here, he hit immediately. Church got here and he was overpowered. Now, maybe that's just the first month, right? Wynn
Mason
was kind of that
also
way.
Was overpowered.
Yeah, and Mason Wynn, I think, has been underwhelming as a bat.
I think he's been fine, though.
Sure, I'm fine. I think underwhelming, though, is compared to what I would say what I expected a little bit. I'm okay with trying it with him in left field.
Mason Wynn's also like 23.
I don't know. I've seen enough plate appearances to wonder. I don't know that he's going to be the answer, but I'm willing to try it.
Mason Wynn also wasn't as successful in AAA as
guys,
Nathan Church was last year.
These conversations are being had, and it's supposed to be over Jose freaking Fermin. That's the conversations we should be having right now.
He's Alex. That's T-Bone. I'm BK. We're going to talk to David Backus next year on 101 ESPN.
I always love the opportunity to get to catch up with the former Blues captain, David Backes, and a perfect reason to get him to hop on with us here on BK and Ferrario today, along with Brandon Kiley and Tanner Hendrickson. I'm Alex Ferrario, because this Friday out at Centene Community Ice Center, Puck Cancer event is back for the third period. It's the fourth annual Puck Cancer event that it's going to have Blues and NHL alumni. Tickets are on sale now. You can get it through Ticketmaster or the Blues alumni website. And David Backes is going to be playing in this one. So let's head to the Callier and Thompson hotline and welcome in David Backes. David, it's great to catch up with you, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. Good to hear from you as well. And, unfortunately, looking forward to being in town, but wish it was for just the Blues for Kids fundraiser instead of, for a cancer benefit with Chasers Battle as we're hearing about.
So David, if you don't mind, take me through that, because, Kelly Chase is an icon when it comes to the St. Louis Blues. Your interactions throughout your time in St. Louis, I would imagine you got to know Chaser pretty early in your Blues career after you were drafted, and that relationship just continued to improve. Yeah,
the alumni is historic in St. Louis, and how there's so many guys around, and they really set the culture for guys coming in. My introduction to Blues hockey was fantasy camp before the season starts, and there's Chaser and Hully and Bob Plager and Bruce Affleck all there, and Chaser's a guy that really means what he says, and he sets that tone of, you're not playing for the name on the back, you're playing for the logo in the front, and all of the things that it means to be a Blue. You're going to be hard-nosed, you're going to be blue-collar, and nobody's going to outwork you, and you're going to, stand up for each other and stick together until the very, very end.
We're talking to our guy and former Blues captain here on 101 ESPN, David Backes. David, what is it going to be like for you to get out there with all these guys again? You mentioned the alumni and how historic it is here in St. Louis. How much are you able to keep in touch with some of these guys?
Some of them I keep tabs with and have good relationships with, but I've never skated on the Centene ice. That's I was in the Mills when I was there, and I'm looking forward to seeing. I got a tour one time and got to see the facility, but get in that alumni locker room. Hopefully, there's a spot for me, maybe a chair in the middle, being the new guy to the game, but. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to seeing all the fans and people in the stands, and just the support for Chaser as he goes through this battle, and then spreading that love, to the community the way that he always has served the community, and just trying to make good out of the battle that he's in.
So take me through that. What was obviously there was no real sell to you to come out there and do this for Kelly Chase, but this is the first one that you're skating in throughout these last couple of years, and I have to imagine you saw the list of guys out there and you're like, oh yeah, I could go out there and skate with these guys.
Well, hopefully I'm just skated this morning, hopefully get myself in shape quickly and can go out there and not make too much of a fool out of myself. I've heard from many that have participated that it's a good time to play in the game. It's lighthearted and fun. And, with all the characters out there and all the guys that come back for the game, it's how could you not have a blast and put on a good show for the people that come into attendance.
So was the selling point for you, David, to make sure that you were on a line with Steiner or Stastny, or did you say, you know what, let's throw a wrench into all of this and go out there with Cam Jansen and Scotty Upshall on a line?
Yeah, I wasn't able to pick my line mates. Still not sure who that is. Probably some lobbying to be done. But yeah, if I got
Dirks Bentley, maybe.
Yeah, go for Dirks.
Yeah, Steen, Oshie, and I. Those were I feel like those were the glory days in St. Louis when I could kind of free range, because those guys were both so smart, and they'd pick up the pieces and fill in for me when I was getting a little out of control in the offensive zone, but also. Two intelligent players that are had a heck of a career and proud to have been their teammates and their line mates.
David Backus joining us here on 101 ESPN. David, we're really excited about that opportunity to see you guys on Friday night. We'll have the Fast Lane out there from 2 to 6. We'll be talking to some of the guys as they go through. Tickets on sale right now for the 3rd annual Puck Cancer 3rd period alumni game. You can get those online right now. The Centene Community Ice Center. You can go to their website. You can buy the tickets on there. Super great. It's a really cool event. Glad to see that David Backus is going to be a part of it. I did want to ask you, while we've got you, about the St. Louis Blues this season. This is obviously not the kind of year that any of us locally were anticipating. You're a little further away from this, David, but I'm curious what you've seen from the team that's led to some of these struggles and frustrations.
Yeah, maybe some, culture erosion, if that's an appropriate term. Something where, you've got a core group of guys that, have built a culture in the way that the Blues are going to play, and certainly the game has trended a lot more skill-based. But in the end, I think, what's winning games in the NHL is certainly high level of skill, which is present on the ice, but there's a underlying hard to play against, miserable to play against, and teams hating to see that you're the next one on their schedule type of persona that has been there for a long time, was there, through a cup and a few years after that. And now it's eroded a little bit, and need to grab that sort of culture back and just say, this is who we are and this is what's successful. Who wants to play the Florida Panthers when they're clicking, or, the past couple of years, they're miserable. Even when Tampa was winning their cups, they were Goold for days, but they had an edge to them, and just not caring what the other team thought, because they were going to impose their game on you and just lay it out there. And talking about chaser, talking about culture, I think it all fits into getting back to what's worked there, and what works everywhere is having those tenets that are part of your game every single night, and you don't vary from them, and then get to playoffs, and you never know. You get Jordan Binnington on a hot streak, and seen it, firsthand, that he can be unbeatable, steal series from you, win games, and you never know what happens when you get into playoffs with a great goalie.
David, the beginning of your career, that was kind of the last time that we've seen the Blues be in this type of a spot where they miss the playoffs for a few years in a row. You guys made it in that 2009 postseason, and then the next couple of years missed it, but you didn't have this kind of a slide back. You were still in playoff contention, just fell on the outside looking in. What did it take for you guys to get back to real contention starting in like 2011 and beyond? What was that step for you guys? What were you missing previously that clicked once you got to there?
Well, we made the playoffs by the skin of our teeth. I think we won in Detroit, maybe. There was a critical game in the race, and then we snuck in. We played Vancouver, and we got swept in the first round. And I think that was kind of the, hey, you guys are, you've had a good couple games, or you made a run after the deadline, but you're not ready to play with the big boys. And that wasn't, and no offense to last year's team, but it wasn't play Winnipeg in the first round and take them to 7 games and lose, and you're like, oh, we're right there against Winnipeg. We could maybe be in the second, third round next year. We were very humbled by that experience against Vancouver, and I think that lit more fires. And, the next year, I think we might have missed the playoffs, but we never lost our soul. We never lost our identity. We never lost our, what's driving us and what our focal points on, what our mission was, and, what it meant to wear that blue note. And I'm not saying the team has this year, but those things, there's times when the puck's not going to bounce your way, or couple calls go the other team's way with goal interference the way that it is, or another team just could have a fantastic night. But if you're not putting your best product on the ice, playing for each other, sticking together, and making it miserable to play against, the record can slide in a heartbeat. And then you're looking at those, single-digit draft picks in the next couple of years, which we had early in my career in St. Louis, and you start to have that feeling too much, and you know, hopefully it doesn't become acceptable. I would say in Anaheim, that was what the course of action was there. Is it's like, not that losing was acceptable, but it's not like that put, you know, something in everyone's craw every night when you lost the games. It was more of an individual, you know, who got their cookies and who was worried about that, rather than did we win? Did we do what it took to win? Did we give ourselves a chance to win tonight? And you can't get to that point because your soul feels like it's ripped out of you if you get to that point. So it's looking around at each other in the locker room. It's, you know, having a core group of guys that says, this is unacceptable. We expect to win. And when we lose, you know, there's a reckoning to be had. And that's the expectation you need to have at the beginning of the year and every game you go into, and that breeds your success.
We're talking with David Backus here on BK and Ferrario, former Blues captain. David, you used the phrase cultural erosion early on, and, you know, I think this season was probably the moment where it hit a lot of Blues fans because they traded away Braden Shen, who was a captain for a decent amount of time. I know you've spoken so highly of Braden Shen as the captain, and right now there's no captain, and they'll make a decision this offseason for somebody that wore it, not only in the NHL, but for the Blues. What's the importance of that letter, and what does an organization look for when they name that captain?
Well, you've got to have your flag bearer, the guy that's first, you know, out of the trenches and ready to lead the troops, that, you know, has the standard most nights, and that, you know, can have a pulse of the team, and that can shoulder the load and say, there's times when, you know, Braden did it really well, where he would have to make decisions or plays that were not best for Braden Shen, but were best for the team. And then the coach or the other leaders can go, hey, look at what Shenner did. He fought that guy when he was undersized, but he stuck up for his teammate. No one's got excuses now. Bear down, let's get the job done. Those types of examples of team first, of bringing it every night, being hard-nosed, hard to play against, all those things come into play. And then there's a responsibility, too, of building, you know, team culture, holding others responsible. And Hitch was really good at kind of dissecting the team and saying, here's the, you know, the generals, here's the next line of lieutenants, and then, you know what, here's the privates in this artillery, and we're going to go out there, and we got to have the generals on the page all the time. The lieutenants follow the generals, but they need to be locked in, and then hopefully we get a bunch of these privates that are doing what they need to do, but we can't always count on them, but we need them to perform as well. And when you start to do some dissection and be intentional about it, you build from the core out, and it's a beautiful thing when it all comes together.
As a follow-up to that, David, is that kind of stuff easy for us to see on the outside, or is that more the guys in the locker room know that and they see it, and they're really the only people that know who's most qualified for that job are in that locker room right now?
Yeah, I think you can start to see it as who's emulating it on the ice, because it's not a job you can just fake and say all the things and then go on the ice and something needs to be done, or it's a slow start and you're out there first for the second period and you don't. And I'm not saying this is all about fighting. There's an opportunity to make a hit or just grab the game and get a puck deep, grab your line mates and say, we got to change the momentum of this game by just having a shift in the offensive zone. Like, who's being effective, who can rally their guys to get a job done. And then from that, it's, you know, is that contagious to the next layer and to other guys? And obviously, I think it helps when it's a prominent player that's effective and that, you know, is very productive, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. I think like Columbus Blue Jackets with Boone Jenner, like, he's a decently productive player, but he's not on the first line and playing all the pretty minutes, but he bears the standard for them and, you know, tries to drive them on a nightly basis to a work ethic standard and to a, you know, toughness that we can't get pushed around. We're not going to back away from any fights.
David, I got two questions for you before we let you go, and we really appreciate the time. We're talking with former Blues captain David Backes, who will be on the ice Friday at Centene for the Puck Cancer event, where tickets are still available for that. I did want to ask you about Steiner, because you know him very well from playing with him for the longest time, and you've worked with general managers in the past, a part of a hockey team in the NHL. What are your thoughts on what you think Steiner's going to be like in terms of the general manager role when he takes that over this offseason?
Yeah, from a hockey standpoint and the technical side of the game, I mean, Steiner was trying to, educate Hitch on some of the things when we were playing together, and would really drive our line from like, here's what I'm seeing. I felt it was more incumbent on me from like a work ethic and a toughness and kind of a battle standpoint to kind of drive that. And together we had a pretty good thing where he would have the technical things, which I, admittedly wouldn't see. And he'd be like, no, we got to do this. We got to go, get the puck in, go from side to side because they flood this side so easy. And then on the other side, we'll have more time, or all these adjustments. So we got to stop rimming pucks. And he was really, really good. I mean, he's a genius hockey mind that his dad played, and he grew up with the game, so I don't think there'll be any issues there. And he's followed Army around for multiple years, and he knew this was coming for 2 years. So, I don't know all the duties of a general manager, but feel like with Army either above him or alongside of him, he's been well mentored, and he'll be in a good spot to, take the Blues from where they're at in a down year to either set some culture or get it fired up so that the team can be more competitive and hopefully a playoff contender, next year, or a perennial playoff contender, and then move some pieces around to make you have a couple shots at deep playoff runs and Stanley Cup finals and hopefully another cup there.
David, I'd be remiss to not ask you before we let you go about Bobby Plager. Of course, today is the 5th anniversary of him passing away, and I know just another one of those Blues alumni that was so impactful on your career with the St. Louis Blues and just what it meant to be a Blue.
Yeah, a guy that's sorely missed around the team. We talk about culture. Bobby Plager was St. Louis Blues hockey, original Blue, tough as nails, not backing down from anyone, and a guy that stuck around to tell stories about, battles in Philadelphia and going into the stands. And some of the stories either were embellished or unbelievable just because they, stuff that happened 50 years ago certainly doesn't happen now, or it seems like it would be absolutely insane to happen, or it happened and he's just telling factual stories. But one of the best storytellers, and always had a joke on hand, and sorely missed in the community. And him and a few others that have really set the culture. Those guys are Blues hockey, and they've set that tone. And one of the guys that really helped me get assimilated and bleed blue.
Awesome. David, I can't thank you enough, man, for taking some time out to hop on with us. I'm looking forward to seeing you on the ice on Friday for that Puck Cancer event. So thanks for the time today, man, and we'll see you on Friday.
Thanks for having me. Hope to see everyone out there. And, from what it sounds like, we'll be very available to mingle through the stands and see people and pictures and autographs, and would love to have that place absolutely packed in support of Chaser and, all the things that people are battling cancer need a little help with, and what a great cause to be a part of.
Absolutely. David, thanks again, man. We'll talk soon.
Cheers.
There you go. David Backes, former Blues captain, with us. And he's right. They have a VIP experience for this Puck Cancer event to where you can get drinks with the guys, I believe, after the game.
That's
and
awesome.
Mingle with them. So they do such a wonderful job with this. And David's right. Like, this is all about, it's not all about Kelly Chase, but it's raising money for cancer awareness and cancer research to battle this horrible disease that we know Chaser and so many others are going through. And, Chaser makes it all about everyone else rather than himself. But this is such a cool event that they put together. So I'm looking forward to seeing David on the ice.
Guys that'll be on the ice include Jamie Rivers, of course, our own, Pat Maroon, Dierks Bentley, of course, naturally, as you would expect.
His 3rd straight year.
Tyson Nash will be here. Jim Campbell, Jim Montgomery will be on the ice. Scotty Upshaw, Alexander Steen, Jeff Brown, Paul Stastny, Robert Bortuzzo, David Backes, Cam Jansen, and so much more. Those are just Blues alumni that I just mentioned there. So if you want to get tickets, get them now. Buy your tickets to the event. It'll be Friday night. The Fast Lane will be there, so I'm sure you could stop by, say hello to the guys before you go out to see the festivities for the Puck Cancer event. It's all available to you right now. Go to the Centene Community Ice Center website, and when you get there, you can buy your tickets online for the Puck Cancer event. Huge thanks to David Backus for joining us here on the show today. Coming up next, time for Bet It or Forget It. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line here on 101 ESPN. 314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text line for Bet It or Forget It. You guys give us a scenario. We will tell you if we are betting it or forgetting it here on 101 ESPN. All right, guys, bet it or forget it. The Cardinals will have 4 players hit 20 or more home runs this year.
There you go.
You good over there?
4 hit 20 or more.
Calm down. Forget it. I say they have 3. You're weirding me out right now, man. Could you just hold on to it? I say 3. I say it's Burleson, Herrera, and Gorman.
Yeah, I think I agree. I would forget it. I don't think it will be 4. I don't think Wetherholt's going to be 20 plus. I think Gorman, Burley, Herrera. I don't know who the other one would be, unless Baez got here quicker than expected, or Velasquez comes back up here. But yeah, I would say forget it.
Yeah, I'm forgetting it as
Tough
well.
tough to focus while I was talking there. Well, BK's.
I can't, T-Bone, you take it.
Guys, bet it or forget it.
Man, this mic are in a long-standing fight. We're in a complicated relationship.
He's over there on you. Didn't look like it, what you were doing. We're going to get flagged on YouTube for that, man.
Guys, the Cardinals outfield looks like it's going to be Nathan Church, Victor Scott, Jordan Walker to open
What do
the
you
year.
mean looks like, man? All day today we've been Nathan Church. What do you think we get my God, that's Velasquez's music.
No, the Cardinals surprised us with Velasquez, so it wouldn't shock me if there was a surprise that's JC ended up in left field. Okay, so focus. Church, Scott, Walker, starting outfield for the Cardinals on opening day. Bet it or forget it.
That's it. Yep.
No, that's not the question, Brandon. Bet it or forget it. 2 of those 3 names will be different by the time we get to September.
I bet it.
Yeah, bet it. By September?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think
July.
all 3 of them won't be there.
July.
I bet it.
Nootbaar's going to be one of them.
Yeah. And then I think Walker loses his job.
That's the tough one on September is like, what's the plan there with Newt? Is he going to be traded in July? So I actually think July is maybe the more interesting conversation to be had here of how many of them last until then. Because Newt would be one that's, in my opinion, a replacement. And then it becomes a Joshua Baez conversation. Or a Nelson Velasquez conversation. Can either of them, or honestly, Thomas Saggese. So I'll say better because got multiple outs here. I mean, Nathan Church could be your starting center fielder with Newt in one corner and then
Baez in the other.
Baez or Saggese or Fermin.
Hell, Herrera might be an outfielder by that time.
I mean, it's possible.
I mean, let's be honest. They're going to be juggling guys around all season, I feel like.
I'm not sure how committed they are to this Ivan Herrera as a catcher thing.
I wonder if
starting to have questions.
I've been saying that since last year when they used the excuse if there was a bone chip in his elbow.
Yeah.
Well, there
I also,
was,
by the
man.
way, was using that. I kept saying this about Walker that I think his leash was shorter. And all I get
know.
from Brandon was, Tanner, you got to accept this is a rebuild and we're not building the best roster.
I would just like to talk to Alex real quick.
Yeah.
I get really annoyed when when
You get annoyed when I'm right, too?
get annoyed when we're both
T-Bone's
right?
See, I get annoyed when you're right. T-Bone, I'm fine with. I get annoyed when you're right.
I'm actually far more annoyed when T-Bone's right than when you're right.
Wow.
I can live with you
What
being
does that
right.
say, actually, about me versus T-Bone?
I don't know.
I just get under
I
skin
think he's
a little
jealous
easier.
of you.
Yeah.
I mean, you look like Bobby from, or what's his face from King of the
Star.
Hill.
Yeah. Star.
I can't tell you,
Stud.
like, everything in my bones right now wants to hit this table so that mic goes back
Please
up on him
don't.
again.
Please don't.
I'm having to hold down my hands. All right, I'll go on this one, guys, because I couldn't earlier with my fit. Bet it or forget it. Jake Neighbors is the captain next year.
I think bet it because I've said it all along. He's the guy that when I heard David Backus describing, at least to him, what it means to be a captain, and maybe everybody has a different opinion on what it is.
Yeah.
But for him, what it means to be a captain, all I could do is like, if you close your eyes and you envision it, who is this player on the St. Louis Blues in 2026? I think everybody listening in that moment would have said that is Jake Neighbors.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean that he's the guy that gets the captaincy, but if you're going based upon his criteria, I'll say bet it.
Yeah, I would bet it as well. When I heard him saying, like, drag guys into the fight and doesn't even necessarily have to even be your best player, right? And I think that would fit to Jake Neighbors.
Yeah, he's here and bring up Boone Jenner. Probably would have brought up Adam Lowry, too.
Yeah.
Just to put it in there.
It screamed Jake Neighbors to be dragging the guys into the fight. I've already seen that in the first, 12 games since Shen was traded. The guy I've seen try and drag them into some fights in games is Jake Neighbors. So, yeah, I would say bet it. I think it will be him as the next captain.
That's where I'm at as well. And, you know, I did find it interesting, the other thing he said about Anaheim, and we've heard this from Cam Fowler as well, losing just came a reality to all of those players in Anaheim. And it's impressive to see what they're doing now in the sense of, like, all of a sudden they get a couple of really good young players, but they bring in that cultural changing players that can try and direct them in the right way.
All right, 314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text line for Bet It or Forget It. From the 636, Bet It or Forget It, Mason Wynn will have 45 extra base hits this year.
And they're just trying to make it any way possible for us to be positive.
I think he could be 30 doubles, 15 homers this year. I think that's in play for him. I think he's going to play every day. And if you play every day, that doesn't mean he's a 500 slugging percentage. So I'll say Bet It. And I think he might be either batting first or second. So there's going to be a ton of plate appearances to get those.
I'll say Bet It. I think it's going to be more doubles than home runs. I think he's somewhere between 10 to 15.
Agreed.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I'll say Bet It as well. I think it'll be very tight because I'm not sure he's getting 15 home runs, as BK said.
There were 50 players that had at least 30 doubles last year in Major League Baseball.
And I could see him, especially with his speed, being one of those guys. It's the home runs that I don't know. He'll have to have more double. I think he has to have more than 30 doubles. I think he's got to be 40 doubles to help carry him. But I think he's possible.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for Bet It or Forget It. From Doug Stepson, Bet It or Forget It, the Blues will make a big trade this offseason, including either Parayko, Bennington, or Kyrou. Say about this. I think at least one, probably two of those three are dealt.
I'd say all three.
Yeah.
The direction that JR was just talking about, I'd say all three.
All right, last one here. Dickie-O from Cedar Hill. Bet It or Forget It. Tyler O'Neill hits another home run on opening day.
That'd be 7 straight,
it's the best bet every year.
Yep.
Is he going to start for the Orioles on opening day?
I don't know, but I just saw Dylan Carlson made the Cubs roster.
He did?
Yep.
Hell, and we put Jose
Fermin
on
the
mine.
Cubs in as the playoffs. Sure, what the hell? I'll bet it.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
He's Alex. That's T-Bone. I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. The Fast Lane's coming up at the top of the hour. We will be broadcasting live coming up on Thursday at Ballpark Village. The home opener is finally just around the corner. We'll be set up steps away from the stadium. TMA will be there. We will be there. We're all coming live to you from Ballpark Village. It is brought to you by Rawlings. Visit the Rawlings Experience in the Westport Plaza for everything baseball, softball, and to be considered one of the finest in the field. And it's brought to you by Budweiser. Cardinals fans, this Bud is for you. Remember to drink responsibly. Coming up next, we'll give you an opportunity to win a pair of tickets to see the Battlehawks at their home opener, and we'll hit the rewind here on 101 ESPN.
Alex Ferrario with you to talk about my friends over at Classic Air Care who have been making people comfortable since 1926. Spring is here, which means it's time to go out there and clean off that HVAC system, make sure that the system isn't clogged with leaves or debris, and make sure you're changing that furnace filter inside so that the cleanliness cannot overwork your unit once you get into these hotter days. You're going to be cranking on that AC. I know I will be in a couple of days when it's 90 degrees outside. And then you'll turn the heat back on. All of that work means you want to make sure you're giving it the proper maintenance that it deserves, which is why this time of the year you use that maintenance agreement. Twice a year they come out spring and fall, clean the unit, check it, and make sure it's good to go. And when issues pop up, because let's be honest, something's going to pop up at some point, you've got a company that is there to take care of you. They've got 100 vans out on the road, which means they're going to get back to you within 24 hours, open 7 days a week, 5-star service. You can see that over on their Google Plus page of their tons of reviews like this one from Zach. Brady was great. Helped me understand why my filters weren't lasting long enough and getting clogged. I appreciated his knowledge and walked me through all of my issues and how to avoid them in the future. So call him today, schedule online, get that incredible customer service and the knowledge of technicians with Classic Air Care. You can schedule online at classicaircare.com.
Tanner Hendrickson here with the Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Blues back in action tonight as they take on the Washington Capitals. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 6 o'clock with Alex Ferrario. Puck drop at 7 o'clock with Chris Kerber and Joey Vitale. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. You got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. In about 5 minutes, we'll give you a shot to score a pair of tickets to the Battlehawks home opener. That's coming up on Saturday against the DC Defenders at the Battle Dome at America Center. See your Battlehawks kick off a new season and catch an epic halftime show featuring Nelly and the St. Lunatics.
I'm so excited.
Tickets are available at theufl.com or text to win coming up here in about 5 minutes at 314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text.
T-Bone doesn't even know who the St. Lunatics are, does he? Like, could you tell me members of the St. Lunatics?
When you think of Nelly, do you view Nelly like the way that we would with, I don't know, like hair bands or something? Like it's this thing that you can't quite comprehend because it was before your time, but you understand that it was a big deal?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, that was my fear.
I watched it. It actually popped up the other day, I guess, because they were talking about how Nelly's performing at this. It popped up the 6-minute performance at the BET Awards. This was like 4 years ago, where he performed all of his hits. Like, I watched my childhood flash in front of me.
So this isn't the way that I expected this segment to go, but I'm curious, Alex, what was it like to be a child in St. Louis during all of that? Like the heyday of Nelly, because he was a big deal anywhere. Like nationwide, Nelly was one of the biggest artists going at the time.
Yeah.
So like growing up in Kansas City was a huge deal, but that wasn't the hometown guy, right? Like Tech Nine was the big rapper from Kansas City, and that by big is very much in
Not
quotations.
Nelly big.
It's not anywhere close to the same thing.
Yeah.
Was it like
it was St. Louis pride? Like,
Okay.
I mean, honestly, because what his first album dropped, what was it, 2005? Is that what
I
it
think
was?
even earlier than that.
No.
Am I wrong?
Because Hot in Here was around me being in like 8th grade to high school, if I'm not mistaken.
Let me take a look. Let's see.
Because this
first big album.
The first
for
album
him,
that dropped.
2000.
2000, yeah. So that's what?
Country Grammar,
Country Grammar. And
2000.
then Nellyville was 2002. So
Yeah, that was before then.
Yeah, that was way before. That was 10. So I think Nellyville was the one for me where it got really popular because I was 10 at Country Grammar. I don't think I was listening to that as much as I would have liked versus it. But honestly, everywhere you go, that's all you'd hear. Like Friday nights when we would go roller skating in Rock and Roll Arena, shout out to Rock Roll Arena, you'd hear Country Grammar playing. That was what it was. Anywhere you went, it was awesome. And you were listening to Tech Nine acting like you were cool.
Well, Tech Nine was a little later, but yeah, it was. It felt like a very big deal in Kansas City that this guy's from here, and he's made it quote unquote big. And by
T-Bone was born
Nelly
when
standards,
Country
it was
Grammar
nothing.
came out.
Yeah, what did you say, 99?
No, 2000.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was like not even a year old then.
My God, man, that's crazy.
Those albums just kept getting better too. Like the further it went,
So did T-Bone.
Nellyville was the one where like
Nelly.
that was when it hit for me because I was at an age at that point where I could like listen to the music.
Like I was behind the time because like Country Grammar came out in 2000, but like you start getting into it. And so like by 2001, that's like all you're listening to was the Country Grammar album. And then the next one comes out.
All right,
Cool.
To finish
Who
out
thought
the
we
show
were doing
today, I don't think that the Nelson Velasquez thing is that
Go
big
back
of a
to
deal.
Nelly.
Jeez, yeah, let's go back to Nelly.
Just doesn't bother me that much.
Seems like
I'm,
a pretty positive
I'm
today.
very surprised by it. I'm very surprised by it. I did think that they were going to bring Velasquez onto the opening day roster for all of the things that we've talked about. He's right-handed. He hits for a little bit of power.
We're shopping for a right-handed bat for
Yeah,
the whole
they
offseason.
clearly were looking for this all off season, and he did it in spring training. So he quote unquote earned the job. But I think what we saw is they didn't care. They didn't value what he did in spring training, and they want to be able to hang on to all of their assets for the first couple of months of the season, let this thing play out for a little while, find out how everybody does once you're game planning for them, see what it looks like. I think that's a perfectly adequate way to go about this. Now, I understand people are upset about the deserving aspect of this. Like, did he deserve to get sent down? No, he did everything they could have asked for. And I've got to imagine if you're Nelson Velasquez, that's the frustrating part of this. Because as an athlete, all you want is the opportunity to prove your worth. He did, and now he's not getting rewarded for that. But he's still under contract. He's got an opportunity to still make this club at some point over the next month or so. I'm fine with them going with Nathan Church, but that's also because apparently over the course of the last 3 months, I've become a Church head. So I don't know.
Take me to church. Am I right, dog?
That's right.
T-Bone doesn't know that reference
I know that
either.
song.
Okay. I just, here's my thing on it. With Nelson Velasquez, I could care less if he's on the roster or not. I think they need power. I think he has the potential to be power. But let's not act like Nelson Velasquez is a 23-year-old top prospect that never has seen Major League Baseball. We were talking about it before we got on the air today. It's Lil Poppy. It's Moises Gomez, where it's like, oh my God, look at the power. Look at what he did. And it doesn't translate. Maybe he is. I don't know. My bigger issue is why are we acting as if this is fine to keep Jose Fermin on this roster? We're protecting an asset that, as Derrick Goold told us, you've got a lot of redundancy. You've got a lot of guys who can play middle infield or an outfield position. And I do think there's something to, did you earn a spot in spring training? Because if you're going to call it a competition and then not reward the player who performed best in the competition, then what's the whole point?
And I think the thing to me is, like, you don't have to make that call right now. You can just continue to gain more information on Velasquez.
But the competition was spring
AAA.
training.
Apparently there wasn't a competition.
But see,
I think that's what we're learning.
And that's the part for me that it's like, if I'm a player and I'm being told there's a competition for this spot, and if you perform, you get it, and then don't get it, how should I take anything you tell me truthful?
I'm not sure he was told that. We don't know that to be true. Because, like, coming into the spring, we very much were not having conversations about Nelson Velasquez. That's all really started to emerge over the last 2 weeks. And I was like, oh, well, how could you not take this guy? He's hit 4 home runs. Well, you don't take the guy because he's basically been a bad Major League player for 3 years.
Damn, man.
And
You always go to
Jose Fermin hasn't been the greatest either.
It's been worse.
I think he can probably go down to AAA, and if he continues to have success, they might make that decision 2 weeks from now, where they then decide, all right, he proved it in spring training. He then went down to AAA and continued to do it at the AAA level. Let's see what this looks like for him at the major leagues. But they need more information. I think that's perfectly fine.
I don't know how they can sell me on we need more information.
Yeah, what other information do you need?
Sending him to AAA, where they would say, well, we can't send Walker down there because we won't get the right answer.
And you don't want to lose
proper
Fermin.
information. And now I hear that's how they're going to get information on Velasquez.
Well, maybe they just don't buy it.
What more
The
do
thing,
you
I,
believe
the thing
in?
I just
See-ball,
don't, I
hit-ball.
just, the thing that reminds me of the past is the Fermin decision. I don't, like, whatever. If he's here, he earned the job, sure. I don't think he earned the job, and they're keeping him out of fear of losing him. What's that sound like? That sounds like the old regime.
It does. I think most teams operate this way. I think we give that.
Supposed to be different, okay?
I know. We say, hey, that's a Mo thing. There's nobody else that does. No, most teams across Major League Baseball do this.
I don't like
They
the
do.
tone.
The Blues do this.
Whoa!
Where they
No, he's
try to
right.
maintain their assets. Like, it's the same thing regardless of sport. They want to be able to keep all of their guys.
Blues aren't a great example. They stink.
Yeah, I hear you, but they used to be really good. All right, right now, 314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text line to get
last year.
involved in the show. Right now, texter number 101 that knows the correct answer to the following question. You're getting the pair of tickets to see the Battlehawks in their home opener and to see Nelly at halftime. Here is that question. Hey, yesterday, T-Bone was compared to a specific character in an animated TV show. Who is that character? If you have the correct answer, you're texter number 101. You're getting those tickets to see the Battlehawks. He's Alex. That's T-Bone. I'm BK. We'll talk to you tomorrow. The Fast Lane next.